What's up? This is EJ Stewart.
What if I drop 40 days, 40 nights?
One, you can't do it.
All you are your words. If there's anything you learned about me, I'm going to keep it 100 with you.
Every morning, every night, for 40 days.
Going to be a long 40 days this year.
My skill shot will hold for your city for 40 days, 40 nights.
Rest in peace to all my ops.
For 40 days. If I can do that, then everything will be okay.
You're the guy who can't finish a sandwich. You think you can go 40 days? This isn't normal!
Oh, you're wrong, brother. I'm gonna go the distance.
Let's go! Let's go is right. What's up? This is EJ Stewart. You are watching 40 Days, 40 Nights, where your boy does 2 live shows per day. One at 8 a.m., one kind of at 6 p.m. Apologies for today. I know I'm running a little late. I'm trying to think. Should I talk about what I was going through just now? I feel okay. I'm not super sick or anything, but I have had a sensitivity to apple juice and apples, and I had apples in my lunch and woke up not feeling the greatest. So it made it kind of a tough get up out of my nap and tough get up to start this show. So if that's TMI, apologies, but I do feel like, it's different. This is not radio. This is me. This is my platform. This is who I am. So I try to be as open and honest as possible when I step to a mic. So I definitely needed to give you guys something about what was going on. So that was what was going on. I was having a tough time, but I feel a lot better now, which is great for you guys and great for me, because now we can do this show 40 days, 40 nights, night 18, because we're going to keep it rolling. Nothing is going to stop me from doing these shows. Damn it, I might not be right at 6 p.m., but I will be doing these shows every night. Knock on wood and hope nothing serious happens. But I'm feeling much better now. So that was why I was a little bit delayed. But we will have a full show lined up. And part of the reason why we were delayed as well, because I did not want to cheap you guys and say, let me just throw the mic on and just start talking. I was like, no, it's night 18. Night 18 is just as important as night 1 or night 40. So we're going to do these shows correctly, even if it means I'm a little late. So this is going to be a good one because we got a lot to talk about today, and a very open, kind of wild kind of day back in the NBA. More trades happening, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But Anthony Davis now the big name moving today. We saw the 2 former All-Stars moving yesterday with Vucevic and Jaren Jackson. Now you got a former NBA champion and a future Hall of Famer. He wasn't the only future Hall of Famer that got traded, by the way. There was another future Hall of Famer that also got traded, and we'll talk about it a little later. But we'll talk about Anthony Davis and move to the Washington Wizards, what that means for the Wizards, and how it really wraps a bow on what is now, I think you can say, arguably the worst trade of all time that the Dallas Mavericks made, trading Luka Doncic, in part for Anthony Davis, who now got shipped out for not nothing, but the package that he got back in return. Not something that you can look at and say, oh, I feel a lot better now that we traded, a franchise player in the prime of his career so that we can get this. That is essentially where I think Mavericks fans stand today. Thank goodness they got Cooper Flag. Cooper Flag, I watched, and I'll do just a side here. I watched the Celtics game against the Mavs yesterday. That was on NBC. And, the Mavs typically would be a tough watch if it wasn't for him. They stink. They are a terrible team. But, man, it's Cooper Flag must-watch TV. If you start doing those rankings, we always do those rankings of, who are the guys that are the most must-watch guys in the NBA right now? Cooper Flag, he just had his 3rd straight 30-point game. He's in the top 5. I would say that definitively he's in the top 5 for must-watch guys that you want to see, guys that are worth the price of admission or worth the price of your time on your couch or your whatever on your iPad, wherever you're watching these games on. Cooper Flag is worth it. So they got extremely, I put in quotation marks, lucky that trading Luka Doncic and them missing the playoffs last year and how everything went down last year worked out in the sense that they were still able to get a generational talent in Dallas, because that's what they have. He is no doubt to me a generational talent. So they got very fortunate, and that's kind of going to soften the blow of all this Luka AD stuff. But that chapter now closed. Anthony Davis, grand opening, grand closing after what was, I think, almost 20-plus games, I believe, with the Dallas Mavericks. That's all he played. He is now going to be with the Washington Wizards. Again, we'll talk about what that means for the Wizards, because the Wizards are now setting themselves up to hopefully maybe compete next season. They are essentially Utah Jazz East, a team that has been tanking for years and years and years, is now looking at their squad saying, we don't have a lot to show for this. We probably should start getting in some veterans here and pairing those some of the young guys we have that look kind of promising and seeing what happens. Is it, again, better than where they were before? For the Wizards, I think I could say yes. I could not say that about the Jazz yesterday. Wizards, I would say yes. Doesn't make them a contender in these. That, I think, remains to be seen. So we'll talk plenty about that. We'll give a full breakdown. We'll also talk about, again, some of these other trades. Interesting trades that happened. Really fascinated about this Thunder trade. Thunder trading for Jared McCain from the Sixers. They give up first-round pick in return for going to Philadelphia. Philly trying to cut salary. Some rumors about maybe is this parlaying a bigger move, but it definitely, in terms of where it stands right now, it would definitely help their tax situation by getting rid of McCain, and who was in a crowded backcourt where it was tough to get time because now VJ Escombe has played so well, and the team really does want to sign Quentin Grimes long term. So McCain, who kind of took the city by storm, not to steal a line from what's his name, from Cam Newton, but he kind of took the city by storm last year with how he played. Despite how bad the team was playing to start the year, he was the one saving grace. And then he has the injury, and he's out for the year. And you know, it was like, all right, again, grand opening, grand closing, because he looked awesome to start the year. And then you come into this year, and because Edgecombe was a top pick, and then Quentin Grimes had established himself at the end of last season as someone that was going to be maybe a keeper there, he kind of lost his spot. You know, he was slow to kind of get it going. He's played really well of late. The overall numbers don't look great right now, but the Thunder, I think they kind of got a gem here. And a guy who I think fits their culture, like fits everything. Like I'm really fascinated about that. So we'll talk about that. We have two well-known guards that are about to hit the buyout market because of trades today. One being Lonzo Ball. He was traded from the Cavs. He was traded to the Jazz. He ain't going to play for the Jazz. So now you're going to have Lonzo Ball potentially on the trade market. You also are going to have, on the buyout market. You also have Chris Paul, that Hall of Famer I was talking about that got traded. I forgot he was actually on the Clippers still. Like this, when I saw Chris Paul got traded, I actually thought maybe this was like a prank, or like it was one of those moments like last year with Luka Doncic where everyone thought, is this real? I thought, wait, is this real? He's not on the Clippers still, is he? But he is on the Clippers. He got traded to the Raptors and was a salary dump situation. And he's not going to play there. He's going to get bought out, which is actually kind of was curious. Like, Chris Paul and a team that's kind of trying to compete in the East. Not that he would play a lot because they have two solid guards in Jamal Shead and Emmanuel Quickly, but I kind of did wonder, is he going to be like the OG vet on that team maybe? That's not going to happen, so he'll be on the buyout market. We'll talk about what that market and how and if it even exists for him, as far as I'm concerned. And I want to play some sound from some recent podcasts, different podcasts, because one topic that I think is going to start heating up soon is going to be what's going to happen with the WNBA in this lockout, potentially, because there's still no CBA agreement, and we have some prominent players, both Brianna Stewart and Sophie Cunningham, making comments about where things stand right now. If you're a fan of the WNBA and hoping to see basketball next year, the sound I will play for you probably won't make you all that excited. I think it's curious hearing from these ladies and hearing about, like, you know, where they see the opportunity, where they see for Sophie Cunningham, where they feel like opportunities are being missed, and just how important is it for them to play in order to keep the momentum going that they have, while also not being, as Brianna Stewart said, gypped in whatever this negotiation is going to be. So plenty of stuff on the WNBA, and we'll talk about J. Cole. He announces a track list for the Fall Off that comes out on Friday. Really excited about that. Now, there are no features announced on it, but I do want to talk about it still because he talked a little bit about the concept of the album as well. This is one of the most anticipated rap albums in a long time, you know, because remember Kendrick's album last year, GNX, or 2 years ago, technically, year and change ago, was a surprise album. It just came out of nowhere. So besides that album, you're going to probably whatever the last Drake project was, and even that, because of where Drake has gone in his career, was not as anticipated by so many folks. This one, again, first one I can remember in a long time where there is a huge anticipation. I'm not someone who cares a lot about sales and stuff. I am very curious how this sells first week because it seems like the buzz is definitely palpable for this Cole album. So we'll get to all that stuff, man. Again, this is 40 Days, 40 Nights. Your boy EJ Stewart, streaming live, multiple spots. Streaming live on YouTube. Shout out to the folks in the YouTube chat. I love my guy, Robert Gray. Say, thank you for the Apple apology. You're very strange, but appreciate it. You are forgiven. Listen, man, I keep it 100. Anytime you listen to me on a WFAN show, I usually don't say it on this show because that's kind of a WFAN gimmick that gimmick's maybe not the right word as I try to refocus this camera. That's the thing that I say on every WFAN show is 2 rules. Number 1, EJ's will keep it 100. Number 2, I'm ducking no smoke. And while I may not announce those rules every time I do 40 days and 40 nights, it's still the same. Anytime I step to a mic, that's literally how I present it. Anytime I step to a mic, I'm going to keep it 100. So I knew I was running late, and I knew this was going to be a raw deal. The other thing about just my home landscape is just because of how our home dynamic works. I'm the one that has to walk Lita, who's our dog, who I'm very hoping one day you guys will see and I can actually put on the camera. I don't know how cooperative she will be, and I know it's going to be maybe a little dangerous because I have a ton of equipment here. But just for the sake of this being my show and this being about, again, my sensibilities and everything, I think it's as much as I talk about Lita, it would be neat to have her on camera for even a couple of seconds before she goes crazy and barks in my face and runs away. But no, I do this, again, to keep it fully 100 with you guys. So I also, in that time, have to walk my dog because my fiance can't do it, and this is the time she walks. So I'm like sick and walking the dog, and like it was a whole it was a whole nightmare. This is always the 6 p.m. show sometimes can be tricky because of various different things. Me having a bad reaction to some apples I ate, not ideal. I have this weird thing where I'm not good with apple juice, so I've sworn off apple juice. I've actually been okay with apples. It's a very weird thing though. If you look it up, apple concentrate can be very tough for people's stomachs. So I thought, oh, apples, I can eat apples. I've eaten apples before. It's juice or apple cider, that I can't touch. So Andrea was very kind. She made me lunch. She's like, oh, here's some soup. Here's some toast. Here's some apples. And I didn't even think twice. I was like, oh, yeah, sure. I did think, like, oh, man, this is a lot of apple. I was like, this is 2 apples? I feel like I'm eating a lot. But whatever. And I went to sleep, took my nap, and thought I was going to be fine. I woke up. I was not fine. But again, feeling a lot better now. And I know I'll be good for the rest of the show. So again, 40 days, 40 nights. Shout out to folks on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, New Generation Media. Make sure you follow me on X, EJ_Stewart, where we are also streaming live. Shout out to the folks watching me on X. And of course, we are streaming live as well on Instagram, Action EJ. And like every show, they all get posted on our podcast channel. Wherever you get your podcast, search New Generation Podcast Network. If you missed day 18 earlier today, we broke down the James Harden trade and a bunch of other stuff going on. You can always listen to that back if you can't watch it because you're on the go. Maybe you're driving, maybe you're working out, maybe you're whatever you're doing on the train. You can listen to every episode. Night 18 will go up, later tonight or early tomorrow morning as well. So every episode I do gets podcasted to our podcast channel. Just search New Generation Podcast Network wherever you get your podcast. So let's get the ball rolling, man. Let's talk about something that I didn't mention at the top, but I think it's important to know because it wraps the bow on a conversation we had a bit yesterday, which is the New York Jets have hired former NFL head coach Frank Reich to be their next offensive coordinator. Frank Reich was just recently coaching football at Stanford. He was their interim head coach. They had a coaching scandal, so to speak, where the guy that was there last spring had to kind of be ousted in disgrace. And now Andrew Luck was kind of looking for somebody to jump in and take the job, just for this short time before they get to go through a full coaching search, things like that. It was obviously trying to hire a head football coach in spring is impossible, especially at a place like Stanford. So he called his former coach and friend, Frank Reich, said, hey, I know you're kind of in a weird spot in your career. The last thing you want to do is come coach college, but could you do it for 1 year? And, as a favor or whatever. And he did. Stanford wasn't that good. They did beat Kyle at the end of the year, and that was kind of like their signature win of the year. But I think they finished 4-8 this year. They were not expected to be good. It wasn't like they were worse than they were expected to be. They weren't any better than what they were expected to be. They kind of just did whatever they were supposed to do for this season. Frank Reich's last job, in terms of a permanent job or a full-time job, he had not this interim situation he had at Stanford, was when he was head coach of the Carolina Panthers. That also went extremely poorly. Remember, he was fired midway through the year by David Tepper as Bryce Young struggled mightily in that year working with Frank Reich, and the match didn't end up not being a match made in heaven. There was all this conversation about, did Frank Reich actually want C.J. Stroud like Bryce Young, and he had play calling duty. Then he took it away, and then he took it back. It was a mess, absolute mess with the Carolina Panthers. Of course, he was offensive coordinator when the Eagles won the Super Bowl during the Phillies, we call it, the Philly Special. That game, which they beat the Patriots. He also was the head coach of the Colts after that, where he does have a winning record in those years with the Indianapolis Colts. So we kind of knew where this was headed as soon as we started hearing the rumors that the Jets were looking for a veteran play caller It seemed odd considering they had an offensive coordinator who was still on the staff. And the initial word was they were supposed to keep Tanner Engstrand on the staff. Something blew up. We have Sean Marash saying that Woody Johnson's been meddling. Woody Johnson may have been a reason why they said they had to change offensive play callers, and that could have led to all this. But who knows what happened? But I know one thing. If you're an offensive coordinator and someone says we're looking for another offensive play caller to add to the staff, your days are numbered. And apparently the name that immediately came up was Frank Reich. Frank Reich knows Aaron Glenn. They are friends, and they played together for one season with the Jets, Aaron Glenn's rookie season. So they have familiarity. Frank Reich has that familiarity of being a former Jet. So now he comes in. On the, let's not, I know yesterday I was a madman yelling about Woody Johnson being a loser and somebody that should just give up his team because why the hell is he making us Jets fans suffer? I will get to more of the negative stuff in a second, but let's stick with the positive and try to look on the bright side because I didn't give a lot of Jet fans a lot of hope yesterday. Not that there is a lot of hope, but let's just play along for this bit here. Frank Reich is a veteran coordinator. He's a veteran play caller. Obviously, again, he was right there during the last Super Bowl the Eagles had prior to this one where they just won. He wasn't calling the plays, but he was very instrumental into like everything Doug Peterson was doing with that offensive game plan. When it comes to offensive coaches in the NFL, there are a lot of people in the league that swear by Frank Reich. The results in terms of just like what he's been since he left the Eagles don't scream a guy that's an offensive mastermind or genius. But again, he does have a lot of disciples at this point in his career who have worked for him, whether they worked for him in Indy or whether they were under him in Doug Peterson in Philly. He does have a lot of fans in the NFL. That's a reality, just in terms of just where the respect is for Frank Reich. So if there's a thought that you're like, hey, this is a guy that has struggled mightily, why should I be excited? People around the NFL will tell you that Frank Reich knows what he's talking about. Frank Reich knows offensive football. In some ways, he actually really is like. It's different because he has head coaching experience, but like whatever you think of Frank, like Wink Martindale, like like maybe he's kind of overrated or whatever. He is respected. People think he knows what he's doing. People think he is smart. So there is that aspect of it, and then there's an aspect that now that you come into this next season, whoever ends up being the quarterback for the Jets, good luck trying to figure out who the hell that's going to be. But you don't get the impression they're coming into a guy who does not know what he's doing. Now he could not fix Bryce Young. Bryce Young maybe just needed to fail in order to figure out the things he needed to work on, and he needed a couple years of experience in the league before he ever could have become a viable quarterback. And by the way, Bryce Young is not getting ready for a Hall of Fame bust. Like, it's not like he was lighting the world on fire with David Canales. Now, he definitely has improved a ton since he got to be obviously the head coach of the Panthers, Dave Canales, because the Bryce Young that was playing for Frank Reich was unwatchable. It was so bad. And it made you question, like, man, maybe Frank Reich, maybe he ain't all that. maybe we have been overrating this guy, because how the hell we thought this guy was going to be the man when he got to Carolina. He got hooked up with Bryce Young, and he couldn't survive a season. He was gone immediately. 11 games, that's it, 1-10. And again, it was disastrous during those 1-10 stretch, and his owner being a complete putz didn't make it any better. But now you go, okay, that was years ago. It was Bryce Young. Again, how bad is he really? You go through the numbers for his offenses. Obviously, last year in Philadelphia, when they won the Super Bowl, they were fourth in total yards. Or sorry, seventh in total yards. They were one of the best passing attacks in the NFL. They had the most passing touchdowns that season. They were third in rushing yards. When he got to Indy, again, they were seventh in total offense his first year. They slipped the years the year after Andrew Luck left, but then after that they were 10th in total offense and then 21st, and then at the last end down the stretch, last season he was there before he got fired. They were 27th. That's when he got fired. But the last full year of him, they were middle of the pack, 16th. I mean, the Jets would take middle of the pack tomorrow. They would take middle of the pack yesterday. Like, that's, again, for the kind of guys they probably could get, this is probably the best they could do, considering Greg Roman and Darrell Bevell were the guys we were talking about. I mean, absolute bozos that were left over for guys that they were interviewing. So I think that's the bright side of it. It's okay, maybe you put aside what happened with the Carolina situation and Bryce Young. You have a head coach, former head coach that is hungry, that this is his last dance. He's an older guy. He's 64 years old. So if he wants to have any kind of future still coaching in the league, this is going to be it. Like the Stanford job was almost considered kind of like a retirement job. Like it was unclear whether he was going to coach again, period, let alone coach in the NFL as an assistant. So he took the job. The fact that he took it tells me a lot because there's a lot of nastiness on the Jets name right now, and rightfully so. I've been throwing it on them myself. So the fact that he took it shows that he wants it and that he's desperate to want to rewrite kind of the end of his NFL head coaching career and NFL coaching career in general. So that's the flip side of this. Again, what I stress in terms of why it's frustrating and why it's hard to be optimistic about the Frank Reich hire to me is just the process seems so broken and so flawed, and the lack of conviction from the Jets. I can no longer say Aaron Glenn because I don't now with Sean's report. And I know people are throwing shots at Sean, and I know Sean. I consider him a friend. He's not like my, we're not like brothers, but like he's my friend, and I know him. He's a good dude, and I don't think he's making stuff up. So I take him at his word that someone's telling him this. Whether they're telling him this because they want us to destroy the Jets, I mean, maybe I don't know, but he trusts people that are telling him this, and I don't think he's making this up. So what I'll say is not Aaron Glenn not having conviction of a plan, but rather the Jets as an organization, them not having conviction with the plan is still the part of this that makes it hard for me to feel confident that this is going to work. Because there are some people in that building who did not think they needed to do this. There are some people in that building who thought that they were just fine bringing people back. And then there are some people who thought, okay, maybe we bring Reich in, but then we keep Engstrom. Now, the fact that this 180 has happened tells me that there's a lack of conviction with an actual plan, an actual position to put yourself in to get yourself out of these doldrums. So as much as I want to try to look on the bright side of what Frank Reich has been as an offensive coach in the NFL and so many disciples that he has created throughout the course of his career, it's hard for me to get really excited about this opportunity for him and the Jets bringing him in with all that baggage that is hanging around this organization right now. They now have their offensive coordinator. Now Aaron Glenn's going to call the defense. Again, without all the nonsense, if you told me after last season how it ended, you told me this was where it was going to be, I wouldn't have been like, I would have been like, hey, I don't think we needed to fire the offensive coordinator, but they know more than I do. Maybe they realize Angstrom wasn't it. I have no idea. But this would have been like the result of this coaching staff situation a couple weeks after Black Monday. I would say, okay, fine. I've been a proponent of Aaron Glenn calling his own defense. I'm like, man, you better, you failed as a CEO head coach. You better show me you can do something. Show you're useful in some way. So, yeah, go call some plays. I know you can be a good defensive play caller. And he told me, okay, you know what? Angstrom was over his head. Let's bring in a veteran guy in Frank Reich. I was said, okay, Frank Reich has had success. So we'll see where this lands. I think, I'm kind of so I'm so done with the coaching aspect of the Jets stuff at this point in time. I'm glad it's over. This has been a fiasco, complete fiasco. Nothing is simple with this team. Again, them and the Browns, they're not even distant cousins. They might as well be brothers. They're just brothers that are separated by one state, which is Pennsylvania. Because they act the same. The Jets deciding to keep Aaron Glenn but change the coaching staff should not have been the fiasco it became. But it only becomes the fiasco it became because they're the Jets. Just like the Browns and their coaching search, considering it was one of the least coveted jobs, should have been a very ho-hum situation. Remember we talked about with Mike LaFleur? We talked about Mike LaFleur a couple days ago. And now the Cardinals are also kind of a dumpster fire, but they're kind of anonymous as a dumpster fire. They just hired Mike LaFleur. He was one of the lower end guys in terms of people that were being slotted for head coaching jobs. This is probably one of the, if he was going to get a head coaching opportunity, he was going to have to strike right now. But they hired him kind of anonymously. They had his nice little press conference. His brother was there. It was kind of sweet. I know my guy Bart Winkler didn't like it. Some news on Bart Winkler in a second, actually. I should probably tease. But, not anything bad. Something great. But no, and then it was over. Then we just moved on with our lives. They hired the head coach. Everyone was kind of meh. And we just kept it moving. With the Browns, with the Jets, it was nothing like that. with the Browns, the defensive coordinator is going around sad that he lost his job. He's telling everybody, well, these are my last days with the Cleveland Browns. Somehow we know all of this information. Then the head coach who gets the job does the press conference and says, I didn't come here for no damn Jim Schwartz throwing more shots, more ammo on this whole situation where people who are upset. We know Myles Garrett posted the Instagram post sad that his guy, the Jim Schwartz defensive coordinator, didn't get hired. Like, chaos. Now the Jets, again, wanting to move on from that offensive coordinator, whether you agree with it or not, to go to Frank Reich should not have been as chaotic as it was. But because these teams, they operate in the exact same level of insanity, that's where we are, and that's why this became such a crazy thing. I'm just ready for this thing to move on. The Jets, I just mentioned earlier today when we were talking about the cap sheet for the Cowboys, and the Jets got almost $80 million in cap space. They got all these draft picks. I take back nothing from yesterday. Like, seriously, like in terms of this thing working out, wake me up when they have a new owner for me to be optimistic in any way. But all I got is a team right now, so I have no choice but to say, all right, well, this team sucks, but this is my team. Let's see how the rest of this goes the rest of the way. And like, even if it becomes another soap opera with the draft or free agency or whatever, I just rather move on to the next episode. Like, this episode sucks. This season, this character arc, this Jets, you know how certain TV shows have certain arcs of television. This arc, the Jets coaching staff arc, sucks. 0 out of 5 stars. Don't want to ever watch it again. Like, I'm so done with this. Give me to the next arc. It's probably gonna suck too, but maybe it'll be more entertaining. Maybe it won't be so mind-numbingly frustrating and mind-numbingly hard to understand what was going on. Like, I'm so done with the coaching situation. So I'm glad we're past that. At least I know they'll fill out the rest of the staff, and we'll see who the quarterback coach is and all those guys. But I'm just done with that. Get me to the draft. Let's talk about who the Jets may draft at 2. Let's talk about who they're gonna sign in. Who's gonna play quarterback? Those are big questions. I mean, with Frank Reich again, the C.J. Stroud stuff is hard for him. I mean, not C.J. Stroud. The Bryce Young stuff is hard to judge him a little bit. You judge him because for however wanted Bryce Young, they got him, and Frank Reich looked completely unprepared to coach him in a way to make him viable as an NFL quarterback. But you do look at this situation, and while there's nobody to draft, there are going to be veteran guys out there, and I'm curious with a veteran guy, not a rookie, and someone who probably is more familiar, more adept at running this system, not a 5'10 guy, 5'11 guy. Yeah, I am curious in terms of who they may bring in. If it's a Malik Willis, if it's a Mac Jones. I heard someone say Carson Wentz, and that made me say, okay, I might not like this next arc either. He, of course, coached Carson Wentz with the Colts. I don't think it will be Wentz because the Wentz thing was a disaster. Like, he played like a Pro Bowl quarterback for 12 weeks, 13 weeks, maybe even more, and played like a D2 guy in the last 3 weeks, and they missed the playoffs. I can't imagine Frank Reich looks at that and has a good taste in his mouth, seeing how Carson Wentz played. Also, Carson Wentz took a lot of punishment in a short amount of time with the Vikings. I'm also curious, just like where his body is at this point of his career. I'm not doing the Carson Wentz thing. Again, will Malik Willis excite you? Will someone like Mac Jones excite you? Excitement is not the word I would use, but I do feel like the Jets they got screwed in terms of the Justin Fields thing. Like, he was way more a developmental guy than even I think anyone realized. And however they were trying to teach him, however they were trying to coach him, it wasn't going through in terms of, like, he just wasn't seeing the field. He looked like a guy that lacked confidence, and I feel like almost any of these guys that are out there, and they're not like exciting names, but I think almost any of these guys out there will be better than him. I'm almost convinced of that. So that part of it is okay. I don't think I'll see like the hot dog water football from an offensive standpoint. Well, not even offensive, more quarterback play. Not offensive standpoint, again, just ran the ball. There were things that Angstrom was doing that was showing that they could have had some success. It's just they had no quarterback. I don't think we'll see like the dog water type quarterback play that we saw last year. That I cannot imagine that. Will it be good? It might not be good. I can't guarantee it'll be good. Will it be dog water, which is what Justin Fields was for the Jets last year, and for the short time Tyrod Taylor was, I don't think it'll be that bad. I don't think it'll be that bad. So that part of it, I think, is, again, if you're trying to look at the bright side for this, that'll be the bright side. But thank goodness this thing's over. I'm so done with Jets coaching staff situations. This took forever because of how much they bungled this thing. And now we get to see, again, what they do with the offseason, what they do with the draft. That's going to be, again, hopefully a much saner story arc than the story arc that was the Jets filling out a coaching staff that they didn't realize they were going to have to fill out because they expected to keep most of the people. And then Red Wedding came, and then all this stuff happened, and it's just a mess. All right, let's get to the NBA, man. Again, this was a big day on the NBA trade market. This has been one of the most active NBA trade markets in recent years. NBA trade market has typically kind of been a little bit of a disappointment in most years. Trade deadline's been kind of like, an average guy here, journeyman there. That has not been the case this year. There have been some big names that have been traded, and another guy was added to the fray today. So Anthony Davis, he was acquired by the Washington Wizards, traded by the Dallas Mavericks in a 8-player deal. So here's how the deal worked out. You got the Mavs sending Anthony Davis, Jaden Hardy, D'Angelo Russell, Dante Exum to the Wizards, Chris Middleton, AJ Johnson, Malachi Branham, and Marvin Bagley, remember that name, and 2 first-round picks. 3 second-rounders will be going out to Dallas here. The first-round picks that the Wizards include in the trade will be the Thunder selection this year and the Warriors' top 20 protected pick in 2030. So the picks aren't the greatest. Like, a Thunder 2026 pick is probably going to be the 30th pick in the NBA draft, which is actually kind of like, it's actually really a kind of a bad pick because we're seeing more guys now say, I'd rather go to the second round and control my destiny than be the 30th pick in the draft and go to a team that's like a really good team and have to be languishing on the bench. Or you have those teams saying that, oh, this is an opportunity. Like if you're the Thunder or you're who are the good teams? Now the Spurs maybe not because they want to keep filling out their roster. Thunder, Knicks, Cavs, teams like that. Like they also look at that spot and they say, oh, like this may be a spot for us to stash a guy because we don't want to take on the salary because we're up against the second apron. So it's not a spot you really want to be. So that pick is not that valuable to me. And to be honest, a Warriors top 20 protected, I'm also not sure about how great that is. And I don't know how many times how far it goes down before it conveys. Typically with something like this, like, okay, if it's not top 20 that year, maybe the next year will be top 10 protected or whatever. That is information I don't have in front of me. But top 20 pick by the Warriors, 2030, I'll be real, in 2030, I think the Warriors are going to be dog food. I know it's a lot of dog references today. I think they're going to be cooked by then. Unless they make a trade for Giannis, which we'll see. We have less than 24 hours to see if that happens. Unless they make a trade for Giannis, and then, okay, that changes the landscape of maybe what they look like. The Warriors by 2030 is probably not going to be a good team. Steph Curry would have been long retired by then, I would think. So, and even if he's playing, how impactful is he? So, I don't know if you're getting that pick. Like, the Warriors may be a team that's languishing in the lottery by that time. So, again, when do they have an opportunity to get that pick to convey to them would be the question I would have. But that's kind of that aspect of it. The Wizards side of this, I think, is still the most interesting, that we have to break down kind of the retrospective of Anthony Davis's time with the Mavericks after having been traded for Luka Doncic, their superstar, face of the franchise kind of guy. Wizards are an interesting spot. I mean, they traded for Trae Young, who is not playing. He's hurt, but I think he's healthy enough to play if they need him to play. But they're in a position where, because the Knicks own their top 8 protected pick, they don't want to in any way jeopardize their opportunity of being able to select a guy in the lottery this year. So they are tanking, which is why I know it seems like, they actually got some guys that maybe could actually help them a little bit. But they did this fully and entirely as a goal and an opportunity to say, we need to figure out a way to help us next season. It's not about this year. So Anthony Davis, I don't think he's going to push the play, to be honest. But he may push the play, whatever, but that team is so bad it doesn't really matter. I don't think he's saving them from being a non-top 8 pick team. But I expect him to play little, if at all, with this team. He has had this injury he's been dealing with for all this time. It's been back and forth about whether or not he needed surgery, whether he was going to get it, whether he didn't need it. He has obviously not been playing throughout this time. So I would expect that you're not going to see Anthony Davis at all for the Wizards. So this is more about next year. So you look at the Wizards team now, and you look at kind of where they're at moving forward. You got Anthony Davis, you got Trae Young, you got Alex Sarr. That becomes kind of your nucleus kind of moving forward in the short term. It's not the worst nucleus. It's not the best. But in terms of, again, where the Wizards have been, I mean, they've been a true bottom feeder in the NBA. They've had terrible lottery luck. The years when they got a super high pick, the number 2 pick, the best they could do was Alex Sarr because it was one of the worst drafts. Sarr has actually had a pretty good year this year. He's starting to look like a guy who could be a guy maybe for them. But it's still a lot of question marks about kind of the team that they're building. But now you look at this, okay, you got Young, you got Davis, and Sarr next to him. You expect that could be a really good mentor for Sarr moving forward. And then you got some of these other guys who maybe with a guy like Trae Young, Trey Johnson, Keyshawn George. These are guys that you're still continuing to develop, and you hope that next year, again, you get the Wizards back into being a contending team. It's not going to move me from the sense that the Wizards are going to become some title contender, but to be honest, I actually don't hate stuff like this. Like, the price was essentially nothing. Like, they traded Anthony Davis, and they gave up nothing. They gave up picks that aren't theirs, which is super important when you're a team that's kind of on that wishy-washy, like, how good or not good are they? Like, question mark kind of team, you don't want to be giving up your unprotected first-round picks because those could end up being gold for another team. They traded picks that weren't there, so there were extra picks that they had. They now have, and they gave up nothing for Trae Young. They gave up C.J. McCollum and Corey Kispert, 2 guys that were not going to turn the Wizards into a winner. You have a much better shot at least becoming a respectable team with Trae Young running the point and Anthony Davis in the twilight of his, I don't even know if he says prime anymore. Just a little past his prime, but still a productive player. And then you hope that these young guys you have alongside Young and alongside Davis can continue to come up. And maybe in a couple years, while those guys start to kind of decline, you got young guys that are ready to step in. This is how I think you're really, if you're not going to be a team that can compete for a championship, you don't have a number 1 pick coming to you, this is how you get it done, I think. And again, the Wizards have the opportunity this year where they could still tank, and they still could get a high pick this year. They're going to add a high-end player, high-end piece through this year's draft because they're going to keep that top 8 pick. Again, they're not going to fall out. I think they're going to be too bad. So if they keep that pick, and I can give you the standings real quick before I continue, but assuming they keep that pick, which I think they will, right now in terms of the draft order for where they stand right now. Give me a second as I flip this over. See the league standings. Okay. So when it comes to, I can do win percentage. Can I flip this the other way? Or no, is it going to let me? Let's see. Yeah, no, it's not going to be. Okay, well, anyway, they have the 1, 2, 3. Oh, no, they didn't. Never mind. It worked out. Okay, they have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th worst record. They're tied for 4th worst record in the NBA. So if they're right now, they would not fall out. There's no way they would fall out. Assuming they could get to 4. Right now, they're tied for 4. They're 5th right now. If 5th, they could fall out. 4th, not so much. But and they're in the situation where they are right now. With this draft, again, AJ Devonta, Darren Peterson, Caleb Wilson. He might not be a fit there because they already have now Davis and Sarr. They have plenty of opportunities to now add also a blue chip talent to what they have. Wizards, this is a solid move. It's a solid move. Again, I'm shocked that this was the move. Like, I'm shocked that Anthony Davis just did not have the kind of value to net a winner wanting to trade for him. And that speaks to, again, his lack of availability and his injury history. It's not surprising. It's not surprising, but it is stunning considering, again, this guy was traded for Luka Doncic. And it was just not that long ago when we were talking about Anthony Davis as still one of the best players in the NBA. And here he's getting traded for the Wizards for first-round picks, but for very low-value first-round picks, not high-end first-round picks. Does Anthony Davis have anything left in the tank? I think is going to be a fair question to ask in terms of where he's at this point in his career. I'd anticipate he's a guy that's always going to have to deal with some kind of injuries. I think you're going to have to live with that with him. I don't think you're going to be, oh, Anthony Davis is going to come back. He's going to turn back the clock. He's going to be the old Anthony Davis that was guiding the bubble. He's 32 years old, and he's going to be 33 in March. So you're probably looking at these next 2 years for Anthony Davis of him playing high-end basketball. And I think he will be motivated to, at the very least, put up a couple of really good years to hopefully maybe end his career with a team that is in a championship or win or bust kind of mode. So it's not like he has nothing to prove at this point in his career. He is kind of being sent to the Night's Watch, as my friend texted me, of the NBA when going to play for the Washington Wizards. But I don't think it's quite as bleak as it looks today. Today, you look at the Wizards, you watch them get beat by the Knicks by 30 points yesterday. They're down by 27 at halftime. You're like, holy crap, I would hate to go to that team. You got to see the forest through the trees. Trae Young when he's out on the floor. Anthony Davis when he's out on the floor. Then a blue chip prospect potentially. It's not guaranteed. It's not guaranteed. But in a draft that is super deep, where you don't have to be number one or even number two to get potentially a game changer, that guy in the fold. And then if you like any of these young guys, Kubali, Trey Johnson, who I think he's been hurt, but when he's played, he's looked pretty good. And again, Keyshawn George, if any of those guys can pop, now you're kind of looking at a starting lineup plus rotation that doesn't look crazy. It looked crazy coming into this year. The Wizards have been one of the worst teams in the NBA, and they've earned it. But coming in next year, you look at the roster, okay, there's stuff here. Do they have the right coach? Is O'Keefe the kind of guy that can put this together? I have no idea. Watching him coach this version of the Wizards, there's no way you can tell if that guy can coach or not. No chance. His team has negative talent. So that would be the big thing. But the Wizards, not a team to watch this year, but a team to watch next year because of the moves they made today. Anthony Davis, 8-player deal. He goes to the Washington Wizards. From the Dallas Mavericks standpoint, real quickly, I mean, it's a cut your losses situation, right? I mean, you made the trade for Luka Doncic. You took back the crap that you took back to get him, thinking that Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving were going to be this massive difference maker together as a tandem, and those guys essentially never played together. It's a devastating blow to the organization to have that happen. They're very lucky that Luka Doncic, or rather not Luka Doncic, Cooper Flag has been bestowed upon them to save them out of what should have been truly like some really dark years after feeling like you were on top of the world just a year before you were in the NBA Finals. So they got really fortunate with Cooper Flag. He is one of the most must-watch guys in the NBA. And I think that now these aren't great pieces you have, but at least you have some pieces to start to begin the process of the rebuild. I'm curious how fast the Mavericks think they could get back to being a winner. Because Flag is so good. He's having a phenomenal rookie season. Is it possible that they try to become aggressive this offseason in trying to add some veterans that make more sense next to Flag than someone like Anthony Davis? Or do they continue to pare it down more, get more young guys? Are they going to go to another year of tanking? Very fascinating to see how that goes. I mentioned I wanted to play some Jason Kidd sound that I never actually got to play. But he seems to be feeling the heat of this. And I kind of wonder how long he stays there. There was rumors about the Knicks, and the Knicks wanted to interview him. Dallas wouldn't let him, and it was kind of odd in terms of like, okay, then why haven't they signed him to an extension yet? They eventually got to that extension months and months later. So he is signed there, but he is signed up not for the team he thought he was coaching. He thought he was going to be coaching a perennial playoff team. He is now leading a rebuild. And when people start challenging him about how he has developed Cooper Flag, which to be fair to him, it probably was unfair. Probably was unfair. I mean, first of all, Flag looks great right now. But if people forget this, when he was a coach of the Bucks, he did the same thing with Giannis. He had Giannis at one point playing point guard. And it looked kind of like how Luka Flag. It looked kind of crazy. Like, Giannis is a great ball handler for a guy his size, especially back then. Like, now we see more 6'11 guys that can handle like that. But, like, 6'11, 6'10, well, at that time he was growing still. But 6'9.5", 6'10", with that kind of athletic ability, him playing the point, it was ragged. He was turning the ball over and stuff. But you saw, oh wow, this guy has a lot of skill. Like, I know he can't shoot, but just his ball skills were very impressive for a guy his size, and his fluidity and his agility. Like, most guys can't, just the agility and the things it takes to even be a point guard. Most guys that size can't even try, which is why Magic Johnson's an alien, right? Like, why LeBron James is an alien. Like, these guys are 6'8", 6'9", doing things they're doing. Like, this is insane. There's a reason why you don't got a lot of guys doing that. Kid did that because he wanted Giannis to become more comfortable being an offensive engine and handling the ball against pressure and knowing the other aspects of the entire team and what it takes to run an offense. It didn't go well then, and he got fired eventually there because they were like, what is this guy doing? And he took heat for that, but look at how Giannis handles the ball now. Look at, all those coast-to-coast drives you love from Giannis Antetokounmpo. Where do you think they began? Where do you think he got the confidence to do that kind of stuff in the NBA? It started with Kid allowing him to play point, which means he has to dribble against pressure and all those different things. Kid was trying to do the same thing with Cooper Flag. And I actually said this. I said he did this with Giannis. And it didn't go that great at the time. But Giannis did become a great player. Is it because of that experience? That is where we debate. I could definitely argue that there's great experience he had doing that, despite the team not playing well during that time and him not really being a great point guard during that time. There's definitely things to say, okay, he learned from that even if they sacrificed losses. With Cooper Flag, it could be the same thing, where you say, okay, he looked really bad. I was like, oh, bad's harsh. He didn't look that good. Like, you looked at it and you said, oh, man, he might not win Rookie of the Year. Like, you thought maybe VJ Esco, maybe Concanipple, like one of these guys may step up, because he was playing like, okay, Mavs were losing a ton, and he was miscast. He was miscast on purpose. Again, we could argue whether or not it was the right move, but he took ownership. He definitely took umbrance to people questioning him. And he basically cursed out the reporters who asked him, "Hey, remember that thing when you playing Cooper Flag at point guard? Remember that?" I don't know why they brought that up. Cooper Flag's playing pretty good now. What do you got to say to those people? He basically was like, "F him," more or less, and not F him as like, oh, I'm like me censoring myself. He was dropping F-bombs. He was very upset about it still. It still bothers him, it seems like. So that whole thing, I don't know how long he's going to be there. I eventually feel like, this is maybe the beginning of other changes coming to the Mavericks. Kyrie Irving is not someone being mentioned about in this trade deadline. I assume maybe that's because he just is just planning on not to play. I'm kind of curious if he was interested in trying to come back this year, would he be interesting for a team to pick up in a day as a guy that maybe comes in late March? Again, I don't know where. Actually, the great thing about doing live stream is you can you have more flexibility to kind of Google stuff and do stuff. What is Kyrie Irving's timetable to return? I feel like that's something that has just not been talked about at all. I actually saw him at the game yesterday. He was there. And I got to tell you a funny joke about Anthony Davis that I make sure I can't do. So it said, last thing I see is that Kyrie Irving unlikely to play before the break. Okay, that I know. So it seems like he's ramping up for a return to practice. So yeah, I guess there is no official timetable is what I'm seeing, but he may practice soon. It's unclear though, I guess, if he's actually going to play. If you're the Mavericks, do you want him playing? I could make a case that he should still play if he wants to play. If he doesn't want to play, I'm not throwing him out there. He doesn't know anything to them. But if he wants to play, it might be nice to have Cooper Flag actually be on the floor with a former NBA champion and someone that could actually teach him stuff and he could actually learn a lot from Kyrie Irving. So, yeah, I mean, I'm seeing here, if this was from last week, that this is from Dallas Hoops Journal, that there was no indication that Irving will be shut down for the remainder of the season. He is expected to return after the All-Star break. While the Mavs have not publicly communicated a return timetable for Irving, sources tell Dallas Hoops Journal there has been no indication that he will be shut down for the season. Instead, the prevailing expectation is that Irving's return would be more realistic come after the break as it stands rather than before. And this, now to be clear, this was 3 weeks ago. So this is a little time since then. At that time, we didn't know if they would actually trade Anthony Davis. There's a lot of things we didn't know. I don't know if what happened today changes any of that. But that's something to follow as well with this situation. But I mean, to think that you traded for Anthony Davis as a big piece in the deal for Luka Doncic, and the best you could do is with essentially 2 late first round picks and a bunch of salary fillers. I mean, that's devastating. And you have nothing to show for it from a winning standpoint. I mean, maybe you could say, thanks Anthony Davis for getting hurt last year, so then we could get Cooper Flag. Like, that's all you got. I'm trying to think of any, so that's all you got is he got hurt, which meant the team wasn't that good, which means they didn't make the playoffs, which put them in the lottery, which then got them Cooper Flag. So was it worth trading Anthony Davis in order to get Cooper Flag? Trading for Anthony Davis to get Cooper Flag? Obviously, you wouldn't have Cooper Flag if you still had Luka Doncic. I don't know. It seems like it's a galaxy brain way to look at it, but that is essentially what you're seeing here. Is you traded Luka Doncic for a guy who got hurt, which then put you in a position to get Cooper Flag. Again, the Cooper Flag thing kind of makes this kind of like a soft landing for them, more soft than it should be. But it also means you're now in rebuild mode when you thought you were in title contention mode. So it's kind of it's a whole weird dynamic with how this all shook out with the Mavericks. But we're going to talk about this trade forever. I mean, I think this becomes, if he ever wins a championship with the Lakers, which is not a guarantee, but if he ever does, this is going to be like the Great Bambino, potentially. If Cooper Flag doesn't win a title with the Mavericks, which again is not a guarantee, he could be a great player and never win a title with the Mavericks. This is one of the worst trades of all time. And in the NBA, you're going to be hard pressed to find more terrible trades than this one. That is the return that they got for a guy they traded Luka Doncic for. Nico Harrison, man, war criminal when it comes to front office members, man. That was some war criminal behavior from one Nico Harrison. So Anthony Davis, man, he goes out. I gotta tell you a funny joke about the Anthony Davis situation. So, you know, I forgot when this happened. Oh, I guess it was when the trade was announced. I came out and I was like, told my fiance, hey, Andrea, Anthony Davis got traded. So, oh, really? Oh, yeah, street clothes. He's going to the Wizards. Now, Andrea, like I've said before, she's not a huge sports fan. She's not someone who really watches sports much. She will sit there and watch me be a madman during Knicks games or during Jet games or during Mets games. And she will support. But otherwise, she's not all that interested. She doesn't like going to sporting events. She likes going to Knicks games. She really likes going to baseball games. Baseball games are fun for everybody. It's definitely the best sport to watch in person. Football, I don't think she loved that much. Going to Philadelphia. Well, that wasn't her first game. First game was going to the U. That was a lot of fun. We went to a Miami Hurricane game. Second game, upper deck, Philadelphia. Probably not her cup of tea, considering Philadelphians are maniacs. But she will go to a game and enjoy herself. But typically not a sports fan, not following it in any close way. And she loves the WNBA too. We'll watch a Liberty game or we'll go to a Liberty game. So it's not like she's super up to date on all these players and what they're doing unless they have some kind of pop culture reference, like somebody's dating a Kardashian and someone's dating an R&B singer. Like that's usually how the length of a sports conversation can go with me and her about particular athletes. Unless she just wants to be curious about something, she'll ask me a question about sports and I'll answer. She finds the street clothes nickname for Anthony Davis. It's one of the funniest things to her. I think it's so sweet and so cute that, like, of all the things I told her about sports, like I was talking to my Anthony Davis one day, I was like, oh, you know, like they call him street clothes. She's like, why do they call him street clothes? And she knows Anthony Davis because of the unibrow. Like that whole campaign about him coming up as a young player and the commercial, that crossed over even to someone like Andrea. So she doesn't know who he is. So I was like, oh, they call him street clothes. I was like, no. She's like, why do they call him street clothes? I'm like, well, because look at him. He's on the bench in street clothes. And he's always hurt. And this guy is always, and she that's really funny. Because even she knows this guy also gets hurt a lot. And she's like, that's really good. So then I bring up Anthony Davis or bring up someone, she's like, street clothes. And I'm like, yep, he's in street clothes, just like Anthony Davis, whether it's Anthony Davis or not. Like, it could be a guy, like when the Knicks have a guy sitting on the bench who's not playing. I'm like, yeah, Deuce McBride's not playing tonight. She's like, he's in street clothes. I'm like, yes, he's in street clothes. She's like, just like Anthony Davis. I'm like, yeah. And she'll say, just like that guy with the brow. I'm like, yep. So today, I come in and I say, hey, Andrea, Anthony Davis, street clothes, got traded. He's like, ooh, where is he going? And I say he's going to the Wizards. Now, again, Andrea she also has like nicknames for like people because she don't remember everybody's names. And they're also very funny. The other one with Trae Young, he is Tiny Demon 2. Because when we first were together and we were dating and the Knicks had made the playoffs, she had seen my Knicks suffering, not for a long time, but when we first met, like I was trying to explain to her like the fact that the Knicks traded Porzingis and how devastating that was, and she was trying to understand, but she couldn't get it. Then like the day when they lost the lottery, and she was like, "Why are you like? Wait, their name came up. Why are you upset?" And I tried to explain to her that being number 3 was not good in the draft. We were trying to get Zion Williamson or John Morant. So she's been through some struggles, but then she saw the Knicks kind of like quickly become a winner. Like I kind of look at it as almost like a good luck charm. Like, man, like I was with you for like 2 years, and then they became a playoff team. Like, it was incredible. And the year they made the playoffs, the first year with Tibbs, they play in the Hawks. And we know what happened in that series. I mean, Trae Young is just freaking killing us and showing us our head while he's killing us, right? And she's watching this because she's watching every game. This is not like, she's like, oh, like, this is serious basketball. Like, this is really intense. Like, EJ's into this thing. And, like, this is, like, do or die. She's watching Trae Young. At one point, she's like, this guy is like, he's like Tiny Demon 2. So you're probably saying, who's Tiny Demon 1? That earlier that season, we were watching a game together, and it was the Suns versus the Knicks. And Knicks fans will remember this random game. The Knicks were playing great basketball at this point in time. They might have been on like a 6 or 7 game winning streak. This is the We Hear Knicks that year, that same year, when they made the playoffs with Tibbs and Randall that first year. And Tibbs' first year, Randall's second year. And you'll probably remember a game like they were playing the Suns, and it was seen as like kind of like a true like measuring stick kind of game, because the Suns were a team considered a championship contender, and obviously they went to the finals that year. And like Chris Paul had got there to try to win a title, and they were the number 1 team in the Western Conference. So it seems a measuring stick game. The Knicks it was a close game. They played well, and you're like, oh, the Knicks look for real. And then like Chris Paul must have hit 3 or 4 long jump shots in a row to ice them, and he's talking to the 5 people that are in the gym. Because remember, this is pandemic era, so like the Garden at that point maybe let some people in. But he's really more talking to like Worldwide West and like Leon Rose, so guys who used to represent him. And he's talking crazy to guys in the front row, and he was going off, hitting these crazy shots. And Andrea's like, this guy's like a tiny demon. And I'm like, that's really funny. And then when Trae Young did the thing with the Knicks, he's like, this is Tiny Demon too. What's with the tiny guys that keep killing you guys? I'm like, I don't know, Dre. I don't know why the little guys seem to keep killing the Knicks. So I told her that, he got traded to the Wizards. I mean, he's gonna be with Tiny Demon 2, Trae Young. So I said he's going to be playing with Trae Young. And her exact words were, you say he's going to be, she put 2 quotation marks up, playing. And I'm like, even now you're fully adept at making Anthony Davis jokes about him always being injured. I didn't go there. I didn't go anything about his health or anything. I just said, Anthony Davis. I know you know him because you like his nickname. You think it's funny that he got traded. He's going to be playing with Tiny Demon 2, Trae Young. He's just like, playing. So that's the aspect of this for the Wizards that I think you do say, hey, like it's worth the gamble. But that's the reality too. Is best laid plans with Anthony Davis. Is can he actually stay healthy? Will he be able to stay on the floor? Is a real question mark. But it's worth the risk. They didn't give up anything of note. Those 2 first-round picks are late first-round picks. They're curious. They're a team that I think going into next year, I want to see them. I have no idea what it's going to look like. It's kind of a random pairing. I don't think they're a super contender in the East, but they're the Wizards. I think the bar is super low. I think make the playoffs, make the play-in. I think you'd be fine with that. Be spicy in the Eastern Conference, not be a complete walkover. I think at that point, they would take this at this point. Let's keep it moving, man. So we got, again, a trade that, though, is really interesting, too, this Jared McCain trade I mentioned earlier. So Sixers send their former first-round pick, Jared McCain, from last season to the Thunder for a future first-round pick that is going to be this upcoming season, a pick from this upcoming season. McCain struggled. He's been struggling a bit this year, though he's playing a lot better. He was out for a year last year. He kind of came back late this year, and he kind of came back to a environment that is not all that conducive to him. This is a team that has now prioritized. Tyrese Maxey has become like a megastar. VJ Edgecombe looks like a future all-star, and then Quentin Grimes is now in the backcourt as well, and he played great down the stretch too. So now they're he also. It's a bigger guard. He defends, so they need him to play a lot of minutes. So you're saying, where are the minutes for Jared McCain? They're playing him, but it hasn't been consistent, and it hasn't been, again, it's not the greatest environment, I think, for his development. Because I think he does project potentially to be a future NBA starter at the very least. So they decided to move on from him. I think that's kind of understandable given where things stand with Jared McCain at this point in time. So they trade McCain. He goes to the Thunder. Thunder give up a first round pick. I actually want to quickly see which first round pick it was they gave up, because we just mentioned that one of these picks, the Thunder pick, is going to what's the name right now? It's about to go to Dallas. We know, but the McCain trade, if I can find this, here we go. And they also, by the way, got 3 second round picks. It wasn't just that one first, but the first round pick is like the headliner. So the first round pick is standby. The Rockets first round pick. Thank you. So thank you to me. Thank you to ESPN, which I'm reading here. But no, the Rockets first round pick is the pick that's going to the Sixers. So that projects also to be probably a late first round pick, somewhere between 28 and 24, 25 probably. Let's stay on the Thunder side here. I like McCain's game. I do. I thought McCain last year really popped in a way that almost every rookie in the class didn't. The guy looks like a bucket immediately. He looks very comfortable. I like his competitive nature. I like his big shot making. I wasn't 100% sure about him coming out of Duke, but he was the guy I didn't want to bet against, and he ended up being way better than I thought he would be. So I like Jared McCain a lot. This year's kind of been tough to evaluate because of the situation. So for the Thunder, for essentially giving up not anything of huge value, you got a really nice piece coming back. I don't know where this guy plays though. And I think that is still the thing that I keep seeing people say, oh, like the Thunder did it again, and like this is a great player they added, which is all true. But again, I ask, where is he playing? I'm sorry, like that backcourt is Mortal Kombat in terms of trying to find minutes. Shea is going to play the huge amount of minutes he's going to play. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. Lou Dort is the heart and soul of the team. He's one of the best defenders in the NBA. He ain't losing time anytime soon. Case and Wallace, their lottery pick from last year, who they drafted above Jared McCain, who is really good. He's one of the few rookies that did pop last year. A pit bull defensively. He's going to play. Alex Caruso is going to play. And now they have this guy, A.J. Mitchell, who's come out of nowhere, and he has looked phenomenal this year. I know he's out right now. He's going to play. In theory, unless one of these guys is about to lose some time. I don't know. But is there time for Jared McCain? Like, Jared McCain was at it. He was on a team that had a crowded backcourt. And I would argue he went to a team that has a more crowded backcourt. They play smaller, so I guess, than the Sixers do. So more guards get to play for the Thunder. But who is he taking out of the rotation? I guess it's A.J. Mitchell, but A.J. Mitchell has played really good. I'm like, I'm not running to take that guy out of the rotation right now. He's been playing great for them this year. He's been hurt right now. And maybe McCain comes in and fills that spot immediately. McCain is working his way back, but is healthy. He is playing. Maybe he steps into that role, and that's where they see him. And then A.J. Mitchell is like, all right, buddy, like, get ready to learn, DMPs. Like, and that could be the reality. But A.J. Mitchell's played so well this year. I'm not even convinced. As much as I like McCain, I'm not sure McCain is better than Mitchell. I think he is. I'm not 100% sure. So it's a crowded backcourt, and so I do wonder about how much time he can get. Is he a guy that is going to be able to be an impact player for them this year, or is he a piece? There are a couple of things I wonder. Are one of these guys going to get traded, or are they looking at it and say, oh, we can get a guy we really, really highly value in McCain for, again, a pick that isn't even ours. They don't have their own pick this year too, but they don't. This is one of the few. They have 1 million picks. They have like 12 picks in the next 7 years. Now they have 11. We can get rid of a pick that's the Rockets pick, a late first round pick for a guy that looked like an NBA starter. That seems like a no brainer. After his first year, he's young. He's only 20 years old. That seems like a no brainer. You make that trade every time. Now you say, okay, do we look at some of these pieces and say we feel more comfortable? If we do want to make a huge swing at another star in the next few years, we could do that because we have this surplus of young talent and draft picks. Because, like, people have mentioned, like, why don't the Thunder get into the Giannis Antetokounmpo sweepstakes? In theory, like, they have the assets to do it 1,000%. Now, there's reasons why the man I want to. He's older. They have a super young team that's really good right now. Like, there's reasons not to do it. But just to say, any star player that comes available, the Thunder should be as part of the conversation about whether or not they can acquire them simply because of the assets they have. So having McCain does make me wonder, does it make every one of the guys I just mentioned extendable with the exception of Shea, who obviously is untouchable? And then that includes then Chet and then Jalen Williams as well. Are those guys also more expendable because you just added another good piece? Those are the questions I have for the Thunder, because it's a move that, like, maybe if it's just presented to you, you're just like, oh, this seems like easy. Sure, I'll do this. Like, I don't know where I planned it for him, but he's good, so I'll take him. It could be one of those, but it also does wonder. Sam Presti does seem like the kind of guy that's just like doing stuff willy-nilly. I think he has a plan for something. It makes me wonder what the plan is for maybe another trade, whether it be a trade that is, that's done yet tomorrow. Like, maybe they will clear space for McCain so he can play for them this year, because maybe they think he's a better fit than Mitchell or Wallace or one of these other guys. Or if it's a trade in the offseason or next trade deadline, where, okay, we have all this glut of players and people. Let's see if we can package one of these guys and go get us another star, because they are, again, absolutely loaded in OKC. Sam Presti, a masterful class in terms of how he has built what's going on with the OKC Thunder. Just an absolute masterclass general manager work. And then with the Sixers, I mean, I get it, I guess. Again, it's a crowded backcourt. It's hard for me to believe you couldn't get any time for Jared McCain to the point where you had to just kind of give up on him. It does make me wonder, again, are they trying to get more first-round picks, see if they could do something? From what I'm reading, it just seems like it's more of like, we need to clear up some tax money. We want to be able to bring back Quentin Grimes. Let's focus on that. And we got to give up somebody in order to do that. And it's going to have to be McCain. That's a tough guy to give up on. That's one that, like, I'm like, as a Sixer, if I was a Sixer fan, I'd be like, that guy looks good. I know we have great guards, but I almost would have rather have, like, kept them into the offseason just to see, like, if he starts to play really well, maybe you could get even more for him. Like, to trade him now, his value is at the absolute lowest. You got a first-round pick for him, which shows you how high people thought of him still. The fact that he's not playing all that great, he's coming back from an injury, and he's playing on a team that isn't giving him consistent minutes, and he still got a first-round pick for him, shows you his value. From a Morey standpoint, I kind of wonder, like, do you not see if he plays a little better? Which he was already. He's been playing much better of late. Do you see if he doesn't play a little better? Maybe you have a really good playoff run, and he's a part of that, and then you ship him in the offseason because you got to figure out whatever your tax situation is. I don't know if it's a situation where, they just want to get out of that tax money right now, like Josh Harris is like, I'm not paying this tax payment today, so get rid of him. That could be the reality. I don't know. Those are things that we'll never know unless they come out and say, hey, this is all financial. But those are the suspicions in terms of why this was happening. Yeah, man, a fascinating trade there, I thought, with Jared McCain, a guy who, again, looked like he was going to be Rookie of the Year last year. Now he is traded to the Oklahoma City Thunder, the NBA champs. I'm very fascinated to see what kind of impact he may have on them moving forward. Again, this is 40 Days, 40 Nights. Your boy, EJ Stewart. Got a little bit of a late start today. You want to rewind and hear the story of why? Bad apples. It wasn't bad apple. That apple was very ripe and very good. It was a delicious apple, but it did not agree with my stomach at all. So that led to what you would expect when something doesn't agree with your stomach. So that's why it got started a little late. Feel a lot better now. Feel great. Feel totally fine now after recovering a little bit. But so we obviously a late start, but we're doing a full show, man, because you guys deserve it. You've been rocking with me for all these weeks. We're approaching the end of week 3. After today, we're more than halfway past week 3, and I keep doing the math wrong, but let's see, 5 times 9, so it's 9 weeks I gotta do. That sounds wrong. Every time I say that, it's like it doesn't seem right. I don't know how it's. Well, no, so this is week 3. I think 6 weeks, because it's like this will be 20. So that the reason why I keep going to 9, because I keep doing it's like 7 days, but it's not. So really, it's more of just like essentially we're doing. So it's just the weekdays. So we'll end week 3. We'll be at the halfway point, which means there's 3 more weeks left of 40 days and 40 nights. Again, if you've been enjoying this show, make sure you follow me on all social media platforms. We got the lower third, rather the ticker that goes through on the bottom, and you can always obviously figure out where to subscribe, where to follow, all that stuff. But again, follow me on X, EJ_Stewart. We're streaming live right now on X. Knicks, I know, are battling the Knicks are battling the Nuggets tonight. I'll be turning in that game as soon as I'm done with this, and obviously we'll be following whatever else happens on the trade market. Follow me, EJ_Stewart. Rob DeRay, bro, it's 8 weeks. Is it 8 weeks? Okay, math has been killing me. Yeah, so yeah, this is week 4. Right? This is week 4. I did 1 through 5 was 1. 6 through 10 was 2. Yeah, and then 11 through 15 was 3. So I'm doing this for 4 weeks. That's crazy. That's crazy. I've been so terrible with math. I'm trying to figure this thing out. So it's 8 weeks. That makes more sense. So it is 8 weeks. We're finishing week 4, not week 3. And I believe I got that right now. Hopefully I got that right. But yeah, you were rocking me for 2 or 3 or 4 weeks, however long it has been. He says 4 times divided by 5 is 8. St. Francis Prep math is killing me. Yeah, sorry, bud. I actually was really good at math, St. Francis Prep. The problem is I was, and I didn't put this up so everybody else can see. The problem was once I finished math in high school, where I was really good at, I just was done with math in any way. And the saying goes, if you go to journalism, the first thing you lose is your math abilities. It's like you become a journalist, and journalists hate math. And I went to journalism school after going to CUNY. Also, what will kill you is doing math at a CUNY school. And ask any student who's taking a math class in CUNY, they will tell you. I took pre-calculus at Hunter, a class that I took at St. Francis Prep, and more than passed. I did extremely well. Took it again because there's like a math requirement for CUNY school, or there was, at least was a math requirement for me, and it did not go well. So you leave high school, all the math leaves you, and then if you become a journalist, you become in the media game, the math definitely leaves you for sure. So week 4, we're wrapping up here. We'll be getting week 5 next week. We'll be halfway through this journey. That's crazy to say. Again, make sure you subscribe to the channel, New Generation Media on YouTube. Make sure you follow me on X, EJ_Stewart, which you see right there on your screen. And make sure you, of course, follow me on Instagram where we're streaming live. Action EJ as well. We've had plenty of people who have been jumping in on the IG live chat. See Jesse in there. Shout out to Jesse. M Hancock 74 in there. Shout out to M Hancock. Harvey Hydro. Shout out to him. I can't, besides Rob who's commenting, I can't see who is actually the people that are on YouTube or on X. Those handles don't come up, but the usual folks that be rocking with me, that have been rocking me for these last however many weeks. It is indeed 4 weeks. I can confirm. Thanks to Rob DeRay. Thank you guys. Appreciate you guys. And of course, like I say, every episode that we do gets podcasted. So go to our audio channel, New Generation Podcast Network, to get wherever you get your podcasts. To get all episodes of 40 Days and 40 Nights. So if you missed this one, you can't see the whole one, or you missed the beginning, where I went into further detail about the whole Applegate situation. That allowed me to start that. Unfortunately, made me have to start the show kind of late. You can go back, and if you can't watch it for some reason, podcast gets uploaded. So wherever you get your podcast, search New Generation Podcast Network, and you can get every episode of 40 Days and 40 Nights, plus all the other episodes that we share in New Generation Media. So that includes Hero Talk, that includes Sports Talk, that includes Imperial Broadcast, that includes our wrestling podcast, Off Script. Okay, let's keep it going here. More trade stuff I'll get through pretty quickly before we get to the end of the show here. Lonzo Ball expected to be a free agent. He was now traded by the Cavs. He now goes to he went to the Utah Jazz, but now he ain't gonna play there. He's gonna end up being a guy who becomes a buyout candidate. So Jock Landale, he's gonna be a piece that's gonna be going to Cleveland in this deal. It's a 3-team deal that also includes the Atlanta Hawks. Again, the Jazz have zero interest in keeping him. He's gonna be a buyout candidate. And he becomes an interesting buyout candidate, I think, because he's a guy who, he's a veteran. He's a guy who can push the ball. He's not played all that great, but I am curious if one of these teams, him playing for a different team, different system, will he get an opportunity potentially somewhere else? I think will be an important thing to follow. But he has struggled a little bit this year. He's only shooting 30% from the field. He's averaging 4 points a game. There are a couple buyout candidates we'll talk about as well. We're not going to stop at him. We have him. We have Chris Paul. We have Conley. If you just look at their numbers and I guess the tape from this year, like, you might not be all that excited about them. I'm very curious if these guys have a robust market. There are teams that are desperate for backup guard help. The Knicks, I think, are one of them. I think the Thunder, the Nuggets, I think could certainly be talked about as a team. That's one of them for sure. The T-Wolves, I know they obviously traded Conley, but they weren't starting him because they thought he was cooked. So there are teams that are good teams that, in theory, definitely could use guard help, but probably can't swing a trade to make it happen. I wonder if they take a flyer on a Ball or a Chris Paul or a Conley, and how effective are those guys still? Because they were not effective on the team that they were playing on. That aspect of this is going to be very interesting for Lonzo Ball. And I mentioned earlier, it wasn't just Ball that got traded and will become a free agent. Chris Paul, he got traded to the Raptors. He will also be bought out. The Raptors have no interest in keeping him around, so he will be a guy who becomes a buyout candidate. This one was a little more surprising that when they made the trade happen, Ochai Agbaji, he gets traded to the Nets in this 3-team deal. To be honest, I like the Nets getting Ochai Agbaji. He's a young guy who is on a team that kind of has a lot of guys who play his position, so he kind of fell out of favor there. But I've always been a little bit of a fan of him. I'm curious what he does on the team where he gets a little more minutes, a little more freedom as an offensive player. But Chris Paul, I'm a little surprised the Raptors didn't want to keep him around, to be honest. Now, I don't know if he told them, I want nothing to do with your team. I'd rather retire than play for you. That's very possible. Maybe it wants something to do with Canada. But we're kind of entering the end of the season. We're getting the playoff push. The Raptors will be in the playoffs. I did kind of wonder if Chris Paul would have made sense to hang around for a little bit and be kind of the OG vet on that team. Maybe some insurance in case one of these guys got hurt. You know he can run a team still. You know he can at the very least do that. But what a sad end to his career. Like, he's planning to retire at the end of the season, and and the fact that he wanted to go back to the Clippers because that's the team that I think he associates with his career the most. Which I guess I know some New Orleans, I don't know. I guess you would say Pelicans fans, I assume, whom they stayed with the team after they became when they were the Hornets, then they became the Pelicans. I guess some Pelicans fans probably may feel a way about that. Chris Paul saying, like, oh, LA is where I want to end my career, and this is where I associate my career with, because he was obviously a great player with the Hornets, and they brought him into the league in New Orleans. But the fact that this is how his career is going to end is really sad, and it speaks to why hanging on too long can be tough, because there's no farewell tour. There is no farewell tour. Just like Draymond Green, and what I think is one of the most devastating, truly devastating trash talk lines I think I've ever heard was, Paul Pierce at the end of his career, ironically with the Clippers, languishing away, in his last season in the NBA, is trying to talk trash to a Draymond Green who was in the prime of his career. Like Draymond Green, like the Warriors are in the midst of winning 73 games, they're winning championships, like they're them at that point in time, well, at least they're about to be. And, Paul Pierce was trying to talk trash from the end of the bench, and Draymond Green has that infamous, like, I don't know why you talking. You thought you were about to get that farewell tour. They don't love you like that. They're going to farewell tour. They don't love you like that. You thought you was Kobe? I mean, devastating line. And now anytime somebody tries to do a farewell tour that doesn't go well, you're expecting that same line to be like, you ain't Kobe. And for someone like Paul Pierce, because Paul Pierce is an all-time great player. He's a personality. He is arrogant like that. I don't think he would even take offense to that. Like that's the person he portrays. He likes to be the villain, just like Draymond Green. That's why it was funny to see those two guys go after it. And Chris Paul, the thing that made it stinging was because it was like, ooh, right, like, he's kind of right. Like Paul Pierce, he still keeps talking about, I'm better than D Wade, I'm better than people think. Like he still holds on to feeling like he's like this underdog, and he did go to the Clippers expecting, like, oh, I'm going back home for my last year, and I'll have an impact and whatever. And it didn't go down that way. But it's almost worse when you think about Chris Paul, because Chris Paul is the kind of villain that doesn't see himself as a villain. Chris Paul sees himself as the guy that everybody likes. He sees himself as Mr. Nice Guy, even though he is not. Like, he's a pit bull, ferocious competitor. And, he announced, oh, I'm retiring. Like Paul Pierce didn't do all the work Chris Paul did. He was doing, like, I don't want to say he was doing Oprah interviews, but it seemed like it. Like, he was going everywhere, oh, yeah, I'm retiring. This is my end of my career. It's been a beautiful journey, and we're going to end this with the Clippers. And he thought this was going to go well. And now he's literally out of the country. Literally out of the country. Now, the Raptors are not asking him to report. So what can happen is he could, in theory, still be traded. I put their contract will be bought out, but in theory, it's most likely, but not 100% true. he could, in theory, be traded to if the Raptors can redirect him somewhere where they would want him. Again, who is in the market for Chris Paul at this point? I mean, you always wonder if the Lakers, because of his relationship with LeBron James, the Lakers seem to not give a rat's ass about anything LeBron James wants to do at this point anymore. So I don't think they're doing him a solid. Does Phoenix, maybe? Phoenix has some younger guards that they've been playing a lot. Does Phoenix say, hey, let's bring in Chris Paul? We're not going to ask him to do a ton, but he could be a good resource for Colin Gillespie and these young guys who've been playing at the point. And if we need him to play some spot minutes, we know he can provide a boost to this team. I wonder if the Suns are interested. Maybe the Rockets. He's played there before. I don't think he has any bad relationship with Kevin Durant, as far as I remember. Rockets, again, younger guards that have been thrust into a positioning with, with Reed Shepherd, and they don't have a natural point. Do you go and say, hey, let's give Chris Paul a call, ask him to play 5-10 minutes tonight, and see what that is? Those would be some of the teams I think I would eyeball right now. Just seeing teams that I see maybe would want to throw him in there, unless, again, do the Pistons want him to have an OG role? Does he try to just go on the team that has the best chance to win a title? Like, does he join the Thunder? Say, hey, listen, I'll just sit on the bench. He did play in Oklahoma City. Actually, he did play for the Thunder. I'm sorry. He played for them twice. He played for OKC with the Hornets the Katrina year, and then he played there. Obviously, he played with the Thunder for a season as well. Does he go back there? There may be some pieces there, but Chris Paul is at the end. He definitely is not the same player he used to be. And also now he has this reputation of being a pain in the ass. Like, that's the other aspect too. Like, whoever signs him now, we have the reporting, we have the details of this rift that he had with Jeff Van Gundy and the coaching staff and Chris Paul. They felt like he was kind of like, trying to undermine them by telling guys to do different things than they were asking the guys to do, and making coaching suggestions when he's not a coach. I don't know. There might be some security issues in terms of like insecurity issues rather with Van Gundy, with Lou having such a presence like Chris Paul, because there are guys who have played that kind of role before. Now, Chris Paul is notorious for being a guy who will stick his nose in where it doesn't belong and make his voice heard when maybe people had enough of hearing from him. Like, he has that reputation. So it wasn't crazy to think that these guys just annoyed him and they were like, enough of this guy. Like, we're tired of this. That's not insane or crazy to say. But with that now, with Chris Paul now trying to find a new home, I hope he finds one. Like, I really, as you get older, you get less romantic about like your athletes, especially because most of the guys you watch growing up as a kid are no longer playing. So now you're only watching players that we were introduced to as adults. Like, LeBron and Chris Paul are like the last of a so-called dying breed for like millennials, where they're players who were introduced to you as kids that are still playing. I don't want to see Chris Paul's career end with like this. Like a feud with Jeff Van Gundy on a sorry-ass Clippers team, and then he gets traded. Then he gets sent home to the point where I forgot he was on the team. He gets traded to the Raptors, who I know they're in Canada, so it's like, oh, you got traded to Canada. But like, they're also good. Like, in theory, they could, if you're saying, oh, Chris Paul's latching onto a team that's trying to make the playoffs and maybe get one more title push or whatever. Like, okay, Raptors, not the craziest thing in the world, and they're like, no, never mind, don't even show up. Don't even show up. Don't show up to the border. We don't want you. We took this as a pure salary situation. We had to get rid of Ochai Abaji's salary, and that's why you're out of here. And, like, what I fear may happen is he just may not get signed by anybody, and he just may have to retire, and that sucks. That is not how I want Chris Paul's career to end. Regardless if you think he's been annoying or been a pest or all those different things, you think he's dirty. Again, people say all this stuff about Chris Paul, and again, they have some reason to say that stuff. I don't want his career to end like this though. Like, this is sad. I'm hoping that he can get like a T-Mac kind of deal with the Spurs. With the Spurs sign T-Mac at the very, very end of his career in hopes that they could win him a championship. The guy got almost no burn, literally no burn. I think they cut Steven Jackson to bring in T-Mac, if I remember correctly. Like, Steven Jackson was being Steven Jackson. He showed, and Steven Jackson has told the story. Like, he showed at a practice, he was just being crazy. And Pap was like, enough of you, and get out of here. And then they signed T-Mac, who wasn't, at that point, was not as good as Steven Jackson probably. Or not even probably, definitely. He was so washed. But, like, it was like, hey, T-Mac's last year. Oh, my God, he's on the Spurs. They're the number one team in the West. They could win a championship. And it wasn't for that damn Ray Allen. T-Mac would have a ring. It still bothers me that we didn't get T-Mac a ring. People say he never got out of the first round. Not when he was in his prime. He was on a Spurs team that got to the NBA Finals. People forget that. But no, yeah, this is the end of Chris Paul, man. I hope it's not, but if it is, man, that's a really sad way for this whole thing to end because it does not look good where it's going. A quick thing, one other trade I want to mention before we move on to some other stuff and get out of here. I like this move by the Hornets. They traded for Kobe White. Mike Conley, and they sent out Colin Sexton and Ousmane Dieng, who they acquired from the Thunder earlier in the day, who it's a lot. He was actually kind of, I think, in that Sixers trade. I think this might end up being like a 4 or 5 teamer. It might be something crazy, but nonetheless, Dieng, who was a former first round pick, has essentially not played for them. He's been on the team, but he's been a pure 12th man kind of guy as a lottery pick. Knicks fans are famous to remember that he was drafted by the Knicks and then traded to the Thunder. But I like this move by Kobe White. I mentioned that Kobe White was one of the guys I was eyeballing. We talk about the big names in the trade market. There's going to be these middle tier guys that will make a difference for teams trying to make the playoffs or teams that will make the playoffs. And Kobe White was a guy I identified that I really liked as someone that I wanted the Knicks to get if they could. It was going to be tough because where are they going to match the salary? Nobody seems to want Gerban Yabusele. So it was going to be hard to figure this thing out. But Kobe White, big shot maker, can run a team. Not the greatest defender, but he does have size. He's about 6'5", 6'4", 6'5" at the point guard position. I've always liked his game. It was a slow start to his NBA career, I think. And he maybe never is going to become like a superstar guard or all-star guard. But he's the kind of guy that I think has been waiting for an opportunity to play on a bigger stage with a bigger team. Now, that's not going to happen. But I think this is a good piece for the Hornets. Because the Hornets have a legitimate shot at making the playoffs. The Hornets are right in the midst when it comes to the play-in situation. And it's not like, oh, they're in playing, but like they're going to get stomped. Like, no, they're playing awesome ball. Brandon Miller's come back. They have the guy who in any other year would be Rookie of the Year, Con Knipple. They're right there. They're only one game behind the Bulls, ironically, who are also in that play-in spot. One game behind the Bulls for the play-in. And in terms of actually making the playoffs for that 6th spot, they're a ways back, but they're about 7.5 back, 6.5 back of the spot. But the back end of that play-in situation in the Eastern Conference is kind of a mishmash. They're not at all like, oh, we're cooked, like we have no chance to potentially get into the play-in and then make the playoffs. Like I would give them a great shot against the Hawks in a play-in one game situation. I'd give them a great shot against the Bulls in a one-game situation. The team that, of course, was part of this trade. And then if you win that game, then you got one game against the Heat or Magic, and anything can happen in the play-in situation. But the Hornets have won 7 straight. They've won 8 out of 10. And they've been one of the hottest teams in the NBA. And a lot of it has to do with how they've been protecting LaMelo Ball, who's starting to play some more winning basketball now. Again, Brandon Miller, he's come back healthy, and he is still a guy who looks like a future star. Miles Bridges has played well for them. They drafted really well. Like the bigs they drafted, Kalkbrenner, who everyone knew when they drafted him in the 2nd round. Like, this is a great pick. Like, he's 7 feet tall. Can't teach how tall he is. He can score around the basket. He can block shots. Like, he's the kind of guy that because of like his role, he wasn't going to be valued as like a 1st round pick, but he probably should have been. So they drafted really well. And I think Charles Lee is doing a really good job as a head coach. This was a sneaky, I think, really good move. I don't know what they do with Conley. I haven't read if they're going to dump Conley. Again, he could be a buyout candidate. Again, he was traded yesterday. Now he got traded again. I'm not sure if the Hornets want to keep him. They also now, backcourt gets a little crowded because they also have Trey Mann still. I wonder if Trey Mann gets on the market in the next day or two because they re-signed him. I think he's been a little disappointing for what they thought they were going to get for him this year, which is why they brought in Kobe White. But, man, you add Kobe White to this. I think you are looking at a Hornets team that today I think does make the play-in. If they're playing, anything's possible. So that's a guard that I think a lot of teams would have had their eye on. I didn't think he'd go to the Hornets, but Kobe White made his mark playing for the Tar Heels. Now he goes back to the state of North Carolina to play for the Charlotte Hornets. Real quickly again before we get out of here, did want to mention, actually I'm going to hold should I talk about this today or tomorrow? I'll hold this tomorrow. I want to talk about the WNBA lockout stuff. I want to do it justice, so I'll make sure I get to it tomorrow. I will talk about the J. Cole track list that came out. So the Fall Off is coming up. We're now less than 2 days away. By Friday midnight or Thursday midnight into Friday morning, we should have the Fall Off. It is a highly anticipated album, and we now know it is a double album. J. Cole released the track list and the back end of the album today, and here is that picture, which I actually brought in for you guys here. So there you go. This is the back half of the album. If you buy the vinyl or you buy the CD, again, I don't know who's buying CDs, but I guess they're still making CDs. So this is what you have here. So this is going to be 24 tracks. So you see it's 2 discs. You'll notice it says disc 29 and disc 39. That seems quite odd. Why is it disc were there 39 albums worth of songs that he made that somehow missed the cut, and that's why we got to this number? No, that's not what happened. He's doing something unique where he's naming disc 1 and disc 2 after the ages of the perspectives that he is rapping from. So I'm going to read this from Cole here. So there's a lot about how, like, you know, this is essentially a continuation of the Come Up, or at least kind of the completion of the Come Up, which was his first mixtape. And it's the one where he's standing in the street in the cold, not the one where he's got the hood on in the basketball, that's the warm up. The very first one. If you're a real Cole fan, you know the Come Up. And first one when he was 19 years old, writing, trying to get put on, trying to become a rap superstar. And some of those songs became what was the Come Up. He writes that in this like kind of letter he writes prior to the album coming out that he posted today. He said the Fall Off, a double album made with intention to be my last, brings the concept of my first project full circle. So he says this project obviously here is meant to be his last. He says intention to be my last. I think he's already telling you, yeah, sure, I'll say this is my last album. I think he knows it probably won't be his last album because that's just how rap goes. You retire and you always come back. But he says with intention to be my last album brings the concept of my first project full circle. So you see disc 29 and then disc 39. Here's his explanation to that. Disc 29 tells the story of me returning to my hometown at 29, a decade after moving to New York, accomplishing what would have seemed impossible the most. I was at a crossroads with the 3 loves of my life: my woman, my craft, and my city. Disc 39 gives insight into my mindset during a similar trip home, this time as a 39-year-old man, older and a little closer to peace. Without giving too much more, here is the back cover of the Fall Off, which you see there. It says all the pictures in this version of the album were shot by me. The front and the back cover are photographs I took when I was 15 years old. This back cover that includes the track list is a picture that I took of the walls in my room at the time. Thank you to every artist and photographer that cleared these pictures. So those pictures you see are actually albums that were up on his wall when he was a kid. And that's what you're seeing there. So essentially he's saying, okay, you heard me in the Come Up. I was 19 years old. Then I'm going to hit this album, The Fall Off, which will present my perspective at 29 years old and then my perspective at 39 years old. Cole is now, to be clear, for those who are wondering, how old is he now? He's 41. So this means 2 years ago, which goes back to the previous conversation we had where he said that, yeah, I'm doing this album because, you know, it became a double album because of something that happened 2 years ago, which we kind of know what that is. We know it's the stuff that happened with Kendrick Lamar and stuff. So the fact that it seems like the way I'm interpreting it, and again, I could be wrong, we'll know in a couple of days, that basically it was a 12-song album. It was going to be just the disc 29. Maybe there were more songs on there that didn't make it now because he made this his double album. I have no idea, but it seems like whatever disc 29 is was supposed to be the Fall Off. And then it became disc 39. So it became something, him rapping from the perspective of an older age. And I assume that's where the 2 years ago part of this comes in. That's what I assume. That's why I'm reading this. I could be wrong. Maybe it was less songs. Like maybe it was, okay, it was one album, but maybe it was 2 discs, but it was only just like, 12 songs. I have no idea. But from what I can see, that's how I interpreted it at least. So there's no features on here. We don't know the disc 2, track 2, which is now, disc 39. It's called The Fall Off is Inevitable, which we saw some things saying that was going to be the name of the song, which I guess kind of is like a pseudo title track, which that's that rewind that he did, rapping about his life in reverse, super dope song, super dope concept, kind of replaying or Rewind by Nas in terms of how he did it. Dope, dope, dope stuff. So I have a lot of thoughts on this. Here's what I'll say. As I'll leave it up there actually. I was like, should I put my so you can see my face? I'll leave it there for a second. Actually, no, I'm gonna put it down so I could if I want to clip this, I'll clip it. This is the first time I have some concern. Not a ton. I still think this is gonna be a great album, but he's mentioning when he was 29 years old. So I want to make sure I get this right before I start just talking out of my ass, which I try not to do very much on the show. I don't think I do too much, but maybe I do. I don't know. But so he's talking about when he was 29 years old and he went back home. That all sounds very familiar to the themes of 2014 Forest Hills Drive, which, yeah, I'm right. I don't have. I can do the math in my head. Yeah, so that's 12 years ago. That was when that album came out. That was the game-changing album that I think really cemented Cole as like, oh, this guy is a future rap legend. He should have done with Born Sinner, but it's a weird media landscape. He dropped the album around Kanye's album. It didn't. While I think people have looked back on it and said, "Oh wow, this actually might be J. Cole's best album," and I think J. Cole fans loved the album when it happened, but it seemed like because rappers, especially, are kind of like are like professional athletes, where like as many fans as they have, they have all these haters and these detractors too, especially earlier in their careers when they're just coming up. So for many people tell you J. Cole was amazing, there are many people tell you J. Cole is boring or J. Cole sucked or whatever. So even though Born Sinner was excellent, I don't think it got the kind of love it probably deserved because it was cool to not like J. Cole or to be like, oh, he's actually not that good or he's kind of corny or whatever. But he puts out Forest Hills Drive. That becomes like the certified, I think now you could say classic album that J. Cole has. It may be his only one. I could argue he has more, but for doing like outside of a J. Cole's fan perspective, that may be the one you say this is a classic album. Then you would probably say the second one would be Born Sinner if you do want to make a case for a second one. The themes of that album were, oh, I'm not happy with my life, and like I'm living in LA and I'm doing the Hollywood stuff and I'm Hollywood Cole, but my life isn't. I have no fulfillment. Like, why don't I have this fulfillment? What's going on? And then you realize, like, oh man, like I miss home. I miss North Carolina. I miss the grounded nature of what my life was prior to being a star. It was a beautiful theme. It worked extremely well, and actually, I thought it was really good in terms of how it also continued the theme of Born Sinner. Because Born Sinner is him, like, you actually literally hear him like grappling with what he is dealing with. He can't quite verbalize what he's dealing with, but he's explaining how it's destroying his life. He talks about his infidelities. He's talking about how he's trying to live the life of LA, but he doesn't quite fit in, and making songs that idols like Nas disliked, which of course would let Nas down. Like, he raps about it, but like he's rapping about it kind of in the moment. Whereas like Forest Hills Drive, it did seem like a little bit like I pulled back and now I see my life in a way that I know what I was missing. I was missing that home aspect. I was missing my grounded nature. And let me get back to like who I was when I was making the come up and the warm up and Friday Night Lights, making that kind of music. And it worked. It was a great album. But he's done that already. So if you're telling me you're going to be rapping, telling the story of returning home at 29 after accomplishing what most people would seem impossible and being at crossroads with three loves of my life, my woman, my craft, my city, those are all themes from Forest Hills Drive. Definitely themes from Born Sinner. What's going to be new? I'm hoping from his perspective in terms of how he can execute this, there's got to be stuff we don't know. I think he's going to have to get way more personal than even he normally gets. He's someone that's kind of a private person. He puts a lot of whatever he thinks in his music. But even his music, I think sometimes he does not just give everything away. He gives you enough to know what's going on, but not a full picture. I think for that to work, for me to care what J. Cole was dealing with 12 years ago, I'm going to need to have much more detail about what that is. He's trying to make this as great an album as possible. So I think he's going to do it. But in terms of, okay, a concern that I may have, he's got to execute that aspect of it. Because if I wanted to know how J. Cole was living when he was 29 years old, I just turned on Friday Night Lights. I mean, not Forest Hills Drive. If I wanted to learn how he was feeling when he was 29, I just turned on Forest Hills Drive. or I turn on Born Sinner. I don't necessarily need to hear him rapping about, I went back home and I found my groundedness and I felt good again. It's like, yeah, I know that story. You triumphed and you won and you became a superstar and you sell out arenas and you may sell out stadiums soon. Like we're all fans of you. We all love that. But I've heard that story. And I'm surprised there's even a story involved because so much of this, so much of what you've presented when it comes to what this album is supposed to be, what's supposed to be just you illustrating how great a lyricist and rapper you are. So even the fact that he's even crafting a story is actually also kind of like, I didn't think we were getting all this. I thought it was going to be like, here's 25 of just like the dopest raps you've ever heard. And to be honest, this probably is easier to accomplish the goal than what you were trying to do before. Because what ends up happening is the album may end up kind of sounding repetitive and the same, and may end up being kind of rapidy rap for the sake of rapidy rap. This tells me, okay, there's going to be something more to this. I just wonder if that's the story that needs to be retold. I almost care just more about age 39 and him giving the mindset of what it was like when he also returned home again. When was that trip? We know he had one infamous trip back home. It wasn't quite in Fayetteville, but it was in North Carolina. It was in Raleigh when he stepped to that stage at Dreamville Fest, and said, I love you, Kendrick Lamar. You're the greatest of all time. I apologize. I'm going to take it on the chin if you want to diss me because what I did was corny and I can't sleep at night because I dissed you. That part of it is what I do want to hear. And not even so much like, oh, I got to hear 12 songs about you rapping about it. I don't need that. But how these 2 years have shaped you in a way, or how that time period shaped you as an artist, I do think is a great story to tell and something that everyone wants to know. So that part of it, I'm very excited about. Curious about the first part, and that's the first part. So that means like I gotta get through this, get to the second part. So I'm hoping that he delivers, man. But that's a unique concept. It's not something they've done a good job keeping under wraps what this was going to be about. We've heard some details that they've kind of let out in terms of what their thought process was, but this concept of him rapping from essentially it seems like two perspectives. Again, I'll say one more time. This 29 tells the story of me returning to my hometown at 29, a decade after moving to New York, accomplishing what seemed impossible to most. I was at a crossroads. 3 loves of my life, my woman. Okay, he's gonna talk about he's obviously married and they had some infidelity issues. Well, I won't say they. I know he said he had infidelity issues. I don't know what Melissa if any issues she had, but his woman, his craft, which these are things we know, and his city. Again, all things we know. We've heard this. I'm not trying to hate at all. I'm not, and again, I want to hear it. I still want to know what you're doing. But I'm just curious, what else is there to explore? I feel like we've heard all of this. We heard how much you missed North Carolina when you were running around New York City and Hollywood. We know you were not faithful, and the plights of Hollywood got to you in a way that made you do things you regret. And you talked about how you miss your home. What did we not know about the J. Cole story is what I think becomes most fascinating. And then again, 39, that part, yes, I want to know. I want to know how you felt since what happened. I assume that trip home is the trip home you're talking about. I'm curious about that. Very curious about that. It's fascinating, man. I cannot wait for this though. I cannot wait for this. I'm excited and I really like that Cole is the rollout for this has been phenomenal. Shout out to J. Cole. Shout out to Ebe. Shout out to the entire Dreamville team, except for whoever that guy was named. I forgot his name already. I always forget his name. The pianist that hates me. But everyone else, shout out to all of y'all. This has been a phenomenal rollout to this album. It makes everyone I think that's a Cole fans excited about it. I think the folks that even aren't Cole fans are excited about it. Like, you see the people that are trying to say, oh, you guys are liking it, but he better do this X, Y, and Z. I know, and I played Maul sound. I don't want to diss Maul at all. Maul saying that we need to know why he doesn't call Drake anymore, and we've seen other commentators talk about is he's still not big three even if the rapping is really good. Like, I think the fact that everyone has to keep talking still about this album and still about what he's gonna say, I think does speak to he's still a massive star. He's still obviously in any kind of big three you're talking about. And I think it does speak to, again, the job that Dreamville did. It took a while. but they took their time to roll out what now they have to deliver, which they say is S tier, A1 type raps. Now we got to hear it. And I'm excited to hear it. I'm excited to see what this ends up shaking out to be. But that's going to do it for this edition of 40 Days, 40 Days, man. I want to thank you guys so much. I want to apologize again. I know I got started late. Full disclosure, like I said earlier, stomach issue related to apples. And I know now I really should leave apples alone probably for a considerable amount of time. And it didn't let me get to start this how I normally start this. I'm glad I feel a lot better. I feel, again, did the whole show, feel totally fine. But that was the reason why I was a little late today. So apologies for that. I don't plan on being late. And, if I'm a 10, 15 minute late thing, that's usually just me just dotting I's, crossing T's, or getting the show ready. Today, I was like almost 28 minutes late. That's not normal, and you won't normally see that. If that happens, something happened, and something did happen, which is why I was a little late today. But I still think we had a fun show. I think it was a good show, and I wanted to make sure that I didn't short you guys in any way. Apology if you want to go back to watching the Knick game. You're like, oh, God, EJ, shut up. I want to watch the Knick game. I know some of y'all like that, too. I want to get back to watching the Knick game as well. So, again, we waited a little longer tonight, in terms of how late we went because of us getting to a late start. But this ended up being, I think, a really good episode of 40 Days and 40 Days. So, again, I want to thank you guys. Of course, be sure if you can, please, it helps us a ton. I already saw my guy, Bob Custer, in the chat saying, give EJ a thumbs up. That alone helps grow the channel. Right on, brother. Right on. Give me a thumbs up. You're watching the video, and even if you don't like it, but you support me, please give me a thumbs up. Like the video. It really does help with the channel. It helps the channel grow. I was just actually today looking at our subscriber count and how much it's grown since I started 40 Days and 40 Nights, and that's been awesome to see. So thank you guys for subscribing. Of course, if you don't subscribe yet, make sure you subscribe to the channel, New Generation Media. You got Rob saying, stop talking about the apples. See, the one thing that people got to understand, because I hear folks say, why does people repeat certain things that were said already earlier? Or why do people say X, Y, and Z? Why do you repeat a phone number or repeat follow me or whatever? Is studied that people... I love, one thing I love about doing this show is that I actually get to give game that maybe I would never give on the radio or never give in any other platform. But because it's my platform and it's independent, we do whatever the hell we want here. I can give game to you guys and maybe teach you guys some stuff. Because I talked about earlier about how people say, why are you talking about the Cowboys so much? I'm like, well, if you guys stopped watching the Cowboys, we would never talk about the Cowboys. Trust me, they suck. Why would I want to talk about the Cowboys other than you guys are very interested in them? So this is the second part of this. Why do you repeat certain things? Because people dip in and out. Most people for radio, but other content too. Like they watch content sometimes for 5-8 minute interviews and they leave. And they may come back. Or they may come in late. Or they may come in super late. So yeah, sometimes you got to update and refresh and do things in order to keep the audience that may be new or doesn't know that I started late, doesn't know that why this was happening, or came in earlier and saw it wasn't going on, said what the hell happened, and didn't show up, and then showed up and said, wait a minute, he's live streaming now? Let me go and hear what the hell happened. So that's why you say some things. So yes, I had to bring up the Apple thing multiple times because I think it's worth any new audiences to know why I started late today. And like I said, I could have just said nothing, but I said I'm going to be for full disclosure because I know it's TMI, but I also owed it to the people that have been rocking with me to know, hey, if I'm that late, they should at least know what happened. So that is what happened. Shout out to Bob Custer also. Bye, yeehaw, take the Kings hockey game over 5.5 goals. You guys got Artemi Panarin today. I'm not someone who talks a ton of hockey, but I am a huge Ranger fan, and the Rangers are in the midst of what is going to be a rebuild, and it sucks as Ranger fans because we've seen this team come together and come close, but just keep coming up short. Chris Drury and his decision making in terms of trying to get the team over the hump have all failed. I don't really think he should be the guy that should be allowed to see the rebuild happen, but as of right now, it seems like that is going to happen. Panarin, he's had some great moments with the Rangers. He had a kind of an unsavory kind of like misconduct allegation that the team kind of swept under the rug that still doesn't sit right with me. But as a player on the ice and a player on the team, he obviously been very productive. He's had some massive moments with the Rangers. He was a highly coveted guy. I expect the Kings, he'll be an impact player for the Kings this year. Kings, by the way, random thought. I love that they went back to their retro logo. They have one of the coolest logos in the history of sports. I'll stand on that. Stand on business. LA Kings. I used to. I don't know if I still have it. I have an old school LA Kings shirt. Now it's not old school because they went back to that same old logo. But that like Wayne Gretzky era, black and silver, when like they were kind of trying to match the Raiders look. Money, absolutely money. I'm so glad they went back to that look, and they ditched the purple. Like they look so good now. And I saw the logo again today. Unfortunately, we got to see Artemi Panarin stuff. I'm like, man, I hate that Panarin's going to them, but he's gonna look good in that black and silver, and in that sick logo, those sick uniforms. Like I'm very happy that the Kings went back to their old look. One more from Bob Custer here. Me talking about the bad. Again, it was not bad fruit. I just ate fruit I probably should have eaten for the show. So I ate a ton of fruit, and the radio audience comes and goes. There's a good reason to repeat. Exactly. And like I don't know exactly like what it is for streaming. But streaming is the same way. Like people don't sit here. Some people will sit here and just watch a stream forever and ever. But some people they do turn off, they leave, they come back. That's how stream works. So it's the same thing. So yeah, I especially when something in a major event happens, like I'm 28 minutes late for my show. I gotta say why. Sometimes you gotta say that a couple of times. You got Jesse Flowens in the chat, excited about Panarin. Maybe I should talk more hockey, man. You guys are into it. I appreciate that. Yes, we did. Glad we made a good move. Go Kings, go. Yeah, they did. And there were a lot of people. I know Atlanta Thrashers were interested, or not Atlanta. Atlanta Thrashers. What am I talking about? That's crazy. I know it's funny though. The reason why I said that is like a funny Atlanta Thrashers. There's like a parody Twitter account that like talks about the Atlanta Thrashers if they're still a team. And I was thinking about it. I thought it was funny. So I was thinking about the Atlanta Thrashers. They made a joke about Artemi Panarin. About we were close to getting Artemi Panarin, but I know Panarin is someone's going to be coveted like a lot of these guys on the Ranger roster. And again, for a Kings team that I think is pretty good this year, I think he could make a big difference. And then you got Bob Custer one more time mentioned about why we talk about the Cowboys so much. Jerry Jones had the Cowboys on a 25-season rebuilding plan. It might be more than that. When was the last time they won a Super Bowl? 96, right? That was 95 season? It was more like 30 season. This is a 30-season rebuilding plan for Jerry Jones. Not good. Not good at all. I want to do one thing at some point. I don't know if I'll do it this week. This week is bad probably because it's Super Bowl week. But maybe I'll do it next week. Which, by the way, reminds me, I got to make a big announcement before I get out of here. I want to do like a segment, like an Ask EJ segment. But I got to figure out how to like compile the questions that people want to ask me. I want to give it like an open-ended, like, you could ask me almost anything. Nothing that's obviously controversial or anything crazy like that. But like, I want to be open-ended. Ask me about my life. Ask me about sports. Ask me about your team or whatever you want to hear. Music, whatever. Ask me anything. I want to bring that kind of mailbag segment to the show. We got a nice group of viewers that come and watch every week, and that's really exciting. I'm kind of concerned that I don't have enough that we can do something like that. I may have to solicit social media to help, and maybe I'll figure something out. But I hope to do that at some point because I do really enjoy the back and forth I get to have with you guys in the comment section. Jesse Flowens said, since the Westwood bought out, I switched to Mad Dog, and they actually talk hockey, such an underrated sport. Yeah, man, I really, it's one of those things where, here's what I'll say. Obviously, first of all, I miss working at Infinity. It was a great place to work. We had a phenomenal team at Maggie and Perloff Show, just personally, just the team I worked with Andrew, Maggie, Bogish, and Manny, and then before that, Pete Pilati. We had an awesome team. But then also the people that you guys don't see, the David Marinicks. I still get to work with Ryan Hurley because I get to host on WFAN, which is all owned by the same show. We're owned by the same company. So WFAN was obviously owned by Odyssey, just like Infinity was. So I still get to work with Ryan, but working with Ryan every day was great as well too. Obviously, my former boss, Spike Eskin. So I miss the guys that you guys don't see. But beyond just those guys too, also like these other shows, like we didn't see all these people all the time because we're on at 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. and then we're getting the hell out of there. Maybe we stay till like the longest, noon. But then like it's an early day for us. We're trying to get to the rest of our day and get some sleep. But I mean, I miss the whole squad. I miss, Ryder Than You, Bill Ryder, and his producer, Ryan Hickey, who's an awesome guy and awesome talent. I miss, obviously, Zach Gelb and his crew, Mike Samter, Stu Kovacs, former Maggie and Parloff producers, both of them, both really good guys, both excellent producers. JR and Ryan Botcher. Ryan Botcher's a young guy, but super smart, super good in his career. JR is a man, and I'll hold off on Bart. I'm not forgetting Bart, but just to hold off because I have a big announcement about that. But of course, then Pat Boyle at the end of the night as well with Pete Bellotti. Pat Boyle, super talented guy, super good guy, good people, man. Just a good industry, good folks. So I miss those folks. And I know Jesse was saying that he switched to Mad Dog. They talk hockey more. It's underrated sport. Like it's, I wish. And then one thing I did when I started this show, again, full disclosure, I give away game that you would never hear me give away in any other things. When I have to serve an audience that I am on, if I'm on Infinity or if I'm on WFAN, and that means that I got to talk about certain things that people want to hear, and I have opinions on them, so it makes it easy. I love sports of all different kinds, so it makes it easy. But would I love to talk college basketball more? Sure. Would I love to talk NBA draft more? Sure. Would I love to talk hockey more and like be more invested in it if it meant like that was part of my career? I used to love hockey as a kid. I used to watch so much hockey growing up. The reality is, unfortunately, because like people have just determined that people go to eyeballs for hockey, for football, and almost football only. It becomes football. And that is never how I felt like sports should be portrayed or should be delivered to people. When I grew up as a kid, one of the reasons why I loved hockey and I loved baseball, sports that I didn't really play growing up, was because when you watch SportsCenter, they gave hockey and baseball considerable time. I became a Mets fan, first a Yankees fan, that's a whole long story. First a Yankees fan, but eventually a Mets fan. My friends were all Mets fans. We're all in Queens, and watching baseball highlights, watching baseball tonight. NHL. I forgot what the NHL show was on ESPN, but I was watching these joints. Like I'm 9 years old, 8 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old, watching these shows. Like this stuff made me a sports fiend. Like I loved it, and we can go into the history of sports broadcasting and kind of like how things shifted, but Cold Pizza / First Take kind of changed the game, and they realized, when we talk about this and this and this, you guys tune in more. This is even before social media, so it's not even about social media numbers. This is television, old school television ratings. So let's hit the Cowboys more. Let's talk about the Patriots more. Let's talk about LeBron more. And let's just forget about talking about them more. Why don't we just talk about them only? Why are we even wasting time with hockey and wasting time with all these sports? Because we see those numbers go down. Let's just give them what they want. Give the people what they want. And that's a strategy that people have. And trust me, in sports media circles, we debate this stuff all the time. We're not dummies. We know what people are saying about sports media. And again, just my feeling on it, as I've always felt the same way, which is I feel like ice cream is good because you don't eat it for morning, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Ice cream is good because I had a long day and now I get ice cream. Ice cream is a Jordan versus LeBron debate. Ice cream is, crapping on the Cowboys. Ice cream is, at the time, not now, but talk about the Patriots or Aaron Rodgers. That's ice cream. Everyone has fun with those. If I have to have ice cream all the time, I think you get sick of it. I think you're okay, enough of ice cream. I want real food. Give me a vegetable. And that's where your tennis is your vegetable. Your hockey is a vegetable. But I think it helps. I think it helps the entire sports landscape when you're not making it about either one league or just one sport. And if you're doing one sport or one league, you're only doing 5 teams for how we cover it from a national standpoint. That's how I view it. I'm not apologetic about how I view it. It's very clear the industry, for the most part, disagrees, or at least the people that make the decisions disagree, the people that hire the people disagree. And we work for people, so we got to do our jobs, and we deliver the best shows we can with the sensibilities that we have based onto that formatting, right? And we try to talk about various different things and bring up different topics. But yeah, people will say I miss not being able to turn on the radio and hear something about hockey, even a little bit. And I could argue, I would agree. But what the bosses will tell you and what the Metro will tell you is, as soon as I talk hockey, you may love it, but then other people may turn off. What I love about doing this, when I step to this mic, when I step to this table, when when I do 40 days and 40 nights, I get the free reign to talk about whatever I want. And because I'm not trying to necessarily go after the biggest, highest denominator of people, I want to talk about the things that I just want to talk about and things that I'm most passionate about. And I can serve a much smaller audience, much smaller audience. I can also serve you guys in more of a way. So, again, I'm not someone who follows hockey as close as I used to because it's not been part of my job description for a long time. But if you guys want to hear more hockey, like, yeah, let's do that. As Chance the Rapper said, let's do that hockey. No, but shout out to the Kings, man. Really good move they made today with Artemi Panarin. As a Ranger fan, it's a bummer that this is the beginning of this teardown, and there's no hope to feel like Chris Drew is going to be the guy to figure this thing out. He's the one that got us into this mess. I don't know why Dolan, who used to be trigger happy, is not seeing what the hell's going on with the Rangers and not wanting to change this. I don't know if he's so intoxicated by his belief that he expects a Knicks title, which is what he told Craig Carton, WFAN. But yeah, the Rangers situation is rough, but it's definitely a good pickup for the Kings here. And Jesse Sloan said, "Yep, could be saying hockey isn't popular, and that's why he isn't talked about as much." And it becomes chicken and egg, because at the end of the day, we say hockey isn't popular, and yes, it's not going to do the TV ratings that the NFL does. But to be honest, really, for being honest, truly honest, it's NFL, and then college football in terms of popularity in America, and then it's like everything else. Basketball is like a clear third. Maybe basketball's here, and then everything else is like here. So like comparable, like hockey and baseball is kind of comparable. There are some nights where like in playoff moments where hockey does really well, even compared to the NBA. Like now, I think there's aspects of like cultural things. You know, I always say like I think that we don't do enough basketball coverage. If you say, well, the overall numbers say X, I'm like, yeah, but I know how I'm a black man. For those who don't know, I know how black folks feel about the NBA. I think that like we lose a lot of folks who maybe, yes, they'll watch us for football because they love football, but they really love the NBA too, and they would stay. And because we're only doing one sport, we're not talking at all about the NBA. Like, I think we lose folks. So it goes, again, a lot of different ways, and the same thing with hockey. Like I say, like I'm not someone who watches hockey. I don't regularly. I know I don't hang out with a lot of people who like hockey, but I also I left the city after a Rangers game and seen my Long Island Railroad train packed with people, and know they just had a sellout at the Garden, and they're selling tickets for $300, $400. Like, people are going to these games. People are watching on TV. Like, I think, that's why I kind of pause and say, oh, hockey's not popular. I'm like, okay, it's not football, and maybe it's not even NBA, but it is popular. People do like it. And, in some ways, like, again, it becomes chicken and egg when we say, well, it's not popular, so we just don't ever cover it. And then it becomes less popular. And they say, see, nobody watches it. Like, well, you're not giving it coverage, so of course nobody's going to watch it, So anyway, that's a lot. Again, I get into my media bag of, like, talking about media stuff. He said the new BetMGM has too much gambling talk. Even VSiN talks sports in general, not just gambling BS. Some of the MGM hosts are better pundits than hosts. Yeah, I don't want to comment on, like, obviously what's going on with BetMGM. I have friends over there. Shout out to my guy Nick Costos. Awesome. He does an awesome job. And he's a good dude, too. Just an overall good dude. Obviously, I'm friends with Pat Boyle, and Pat Boyle he was already with them, but now he's fully with them in terms of the show he does with Sean Evans. So shout out to Pat. Shout out to Sean. But the reality is, like, gambling is also a big part of what makes people interested in sports, too. And it's just like I said with the Cowboys earlier today. If you don't want gambling content, don't gamble. If you don't put money invested in it, trust me, people will not waste their time with it. They think they can get your money and get your attention because they want to hear their thoughts on gambling. So that's why it's now everywhere. They know where the money is in sports, and right now it is gambling. So yeah. I mean, and no disrespect to Bob. I know he's entitled to his opinion, but yeah, I got no beef with BetMGM. I got no beef with Westwood or anything like that. I always still got nothing but the best. But yeah, I mean, I told you guys, like, I'm not a gambling guy. Like, I'm not I'll make my Super Bowl bets that, like, and they're more like celebratory. Like, oh, it's a Super Bowl, let's make some bets. It's just like someone saying, hey, it's New Year's, let's pop champagne. That's kind of how I view betting. It's like certain weeks week 1 I'll throw a bet down. Maybe a big Miami game, I'll throw a bet down. Maybe a big college football Saturday with all these ranked games, I'll throw some bets down. I'm not a typical betting guy, so The wagertainment stuff is really neat because it's like, oh, that's an element that that's not in my bag. Like the fact that people can even do that, I find impressive because I'm like, again, as you see with the math, right? It's taking me 4 weeks to realize how many weeks are in this show. Tells you all you need to know about me and math. So, and with gambling, definitely math is a whole part of the equation when talking about it. So, didn't think the show would end like that. But that's how we're going to end the show, man. I want to thank you guys again for checking out 40 Days and 40 Nights. Night 18 in the books. We'll be back again with more episodes of 40 Days and 40 Nights back tomorrow, day 19. I mentioned that, a big announcement, why I excluded Bart Winkler in that little spiel about my love for Infinity Sports Network. Not because I don't dislike Bart Winkler. It's the opposite. Bart Winkler's the man. I love Bart Winkler. I also love his producer, his former producer, Carlos Ortiz. Both gentlemen will be with me tomorrow on 40 Days and 40 Nights at 7 p.m. Show will start at 6, assuming I don't eat any bad apples again. It'll be a normal show, but their hit will be at 7 p.m. They're going to join me. I'm going to reunite the night team for Infinity Sports Network, Carlos Ortiz, his producer, and of course Bart Winkler for the Bart Winkler Show. They will join me. Bart Winkler, obviously based in Wisconsin, huge Milwaukee Bucks follower and commentator and fan. He's going to have a lot to say about the future of Giannis. We'll see if he gets traded. It seems like the day where it's like, whether he gets traded or not, it'll be fun to have Bart's perspective on that. It'll also be really fun to talk to both of them together to see how they've been. You know, I know Carlos has been doing his thing. He's been producing on the weekends for Westwood One. Bart has been on YouTube, and Bart's made a couple headlines. He has not been. I know I said, you know, I got no beef with Westwood and nothing but the best for them. Bart, to be clear, I don't want to put any something he didn't say. Like he was not saying that I wished him hell or anything. But you know, nothing with Westwood actually. But he has made some comments about how he wasn't all that happy with how things ended with his show. So I think the people might want to hear from Bart to see, like, you know, where's he at right now, what's his perspective on sports, what's his perspective on the business. I think that'll be a fun conversation. And of course, we got Super Bowl week still, so I'd love to get Bart and Carlos's views on Super Bowl. Carlos, a big Giants fan. What does he think about John Harbaugh and some of the coordinator hires? He's also a big Bulls fan. The Bulls have made some trades this week, so those two are going to be a lot of fun. I'm really excited to have those guys on. It's the right day to have them on, with Giannis being the center of the trade deadline, whether he gets traded or not. That's going to be fun. So if you've ever watched or listened to the Bart Winkler Show with his producer, Carlos Ortiz, you'll know that they are a phenomenal team. Again, they are two phenomenal dudes. And I'm really excited to have them on the show. I want to do a better job. Like, I feel like because of just the nature of, like, how I work in terms of just me, I'm not someone who typically has a lot of guests on, like, radio shows I do or anything like that. So it's kind of haphazard sometimes in my prep of, like, being able to actually promote someone coming on to the show. It usually it's like when Maggie came on, it's like the day of, like, hey, Maggie, this thing happened. You want to come on? Yeah, sure. It was only 3 hours before the show, so I really couldn't promote that she was coming on and stuff like that until just right before. I want to do a better job of that in these next 4 weeks. I know it's 4 weeks. I want to do a better job of that. And again, I'm really excited about Bart and Carlos coming up. There are already some people I have locked in for next week that are going to be really exciting and fun as well. So Bart, Winkler, Carlos Ortiz, those guys join me tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern. Show will start at 6 p.m. So they'll be part of night team for 40 days and 40 nights. Very excited about that. That'll do it for night 18 of 40 Days and 40 Nights. This was a lot of fun, man. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate you guys rocking with me and sticking with me despite, you know, little stomach issues I was dealing with for the show. And I'm glad I was able to do it. I was very worried. I was like, I kind of have to call out sick. I don't want to do that. Very glad I didn't have to do that. Show ended up being great. So I'm really appreciative of you guys. Appreciative to just this whole journey we've been on. That's it for night 18. I'll see you guys in the morning for night 18. See you in the morning for day 19. I'm EJ Stewart, guys. Take it easy.